Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of BacklogBusters where we're taking a look live at some MiSTer FPGA stuff. This is the second stream with the SuperStation One, and I just wanted to do more testing. The last stream I did on this was unboxing and then me trying to diagnose why the Snac ports were a little spotty at first. I figured that out towards the end of the video, so if you missed that one, you can maybe see some of the settings. I'll go back over it. And then I'd also like to test some of the memory cards today because I did manage to get one working, and I want to talk about that process and everything. And let's see, Funnel and Rascal. I would love to see this working on a CRT. Does this support RGB 240p? Think of importing it to the UK for my old widescreen CRT Panasonic via RGB SCART. I don't actually know. You'll probably have to remind me. This, and I can go to the top down on it. This has the component on one side. It's got the composite, and then it has this port. I don't know what it does. It has the S-Video port on there, and then it has the VGA, and I think that's DIN 10 is what that is, which I don't have a connector for that. I don't know what adapter you would use. Would you go VGA to SCART or something else? I'm not quite sure on that, but I do have a wall of CRTs over here. I have 3 CRTs and an old LCD that I'm going to hook it up and show it on later. Okay, Fallen Rascal says the DIN 10 port is what you would use to go to SCART. So I don't have a connector for that that I can show, but I will show it working on all these TVs. And yes, it does output 240p, 480p, 480i, basically whatever you want to do on there. And so I'll talk about some of that a little bit later. The intro thing I wanted to do, because I feel like I've done a bad job of this in the past, is just explain what we're looking at. And to go through kind of what this is, because I've had a few people kind of question what is the SuperStation compared to everything else. So I want to give a quick synopsis on that. I guess if you're watching this in the future, you can skip this part if you're not interested. But top-down view, what is the SuperStation One? It is this right here next to my original PlayStation 1, right next to it here. So what this is this is an FPGA, and that is field programmable gate array, as far as what I understand. And so what this is trying to do is, if you think of normal software emulation as when you run that on your computer, that's trying to emulate the individual software to get it to run on your computer. And the idea of FPGAs is they're trying to emulate the hardware. They're trying to recreate the entire internals of a PlayStation to get it to run PlayStation games and do all of that. So if you're just here looking for some emulation, cheap thing that will run your stuff, you can always go with a Raspberry Pi or your Android phone, or honestly, iPhones at this point have added that in. But this is mainly, in my mind, for people who want to run stuff with really high accuracy. There's debate on whether or not this is more accurate or less accurate than software emulation. It depends on what you're doing with it. The one big benefit for me is that, one, I feel like this is very accurate, and I have some confidence that it is. And then also, it has support for accessories. So like this SuperStation One has a port for the PlayStation controllers and PlayStation memory cards. So I can use all my old real controllers with that. I don't have to worry about latency with a Bluetooth controller or anything like that. If I don't want to worry about it, I can just plug in those real controllers and know that I'm hardwiring in directly to the console here. And there are all kinds of adapters and stuff you can do there. But at a very high level, this is something that's trying to recreate the hardware of a PlayStation, and it supports a lot more than that, and support a bunch of accessories. That's the big thing I get out of the MiSTer, is supporting accessories from the real consoles in there, which is harder to do when you run it through software emulation on a computer or Android or whatever else. There are a bunch of different versions of these. I have another one here, and this is the MiSTer Multisystem, and under the box, this MiSTer is basically been recreated in this in a smaller form factor and without all this kind of mangled, cobbled together stuff here. The multi-system project is really cool. It takes the MiSTer board itself that runs all this FPGA that recreates these consoles, and then it adds all these extra inputs and features and everything. It's really cool. I've been using this for a couple years now, and I absolutely love it. But it does feel like a little hobby project, and it is open source. Like, you could build this yourself if you want to, and that is very cool. But I like the idea of a small, compact one, especially that has all these extra inputs, because with the MiSTer multisystem, I get the VGA out, which goes to a bunch of different things. I have a SCART out, here as well, that I can hook stuff into. So I do really like that, but it is a 3D printed shell. It has wires dangling out of it and things, and so I like the idea of this being a small, compact thing. So I feel like that's cool. The other thing is the price of this. So this, currently, if you were to order one this second, it goes for $199, and you get in a pre-order and do all this, which is a nice price when you compare. Like, that MiSTer multisystem, the price of a MiSTer itself is pretty expensive. You can also get something like the, I don't know if I have it next to me, but the Analog 3D or something, but that only runs N64 games. This will run so many other cores of things that you can connect with. If we go to my little default view here and pull up this menu, we'll go back to the menu, and there's all kinds of consoles. So I think that's very cool about the MiSTer is I can run all these things, and I can run them with original controllers. I feel like there's a high compatibility, like high accuracy in how this is running. And so just, it's a cool project. They're adding stuff to it all the time and doing open source. So this is, like, as far as I could tell, looking across the things, the Analog Pocket is $219, but it's sold out. And also, it's not completely open source, so you wouldn't be able to do everything you do on a MiSTer. The MiSTer Pi Turbo is slightly cheaper from Retro Remake, the Taki Udon's company, is a little bit cheaper, but is kind of like the multi-system. It's an individual thing with wires running all the way out of it, and it's a little more, it looks like a stack of Raspberry Pis basically put together. So it looks a little more like hobby grade, but it's super powerful. It's the same thing as this. This just has a bunch of the analog outputs, controller ports, and things built in that I feel like is just nice to have. So I do feel like it's a good price, good deal. I also want to say up front, because I added at the very end last time, I'm not sponsored. I didn't receive this for free. This was my pre-order just because I'm excited about this stuff. So, like, this is just something that I had wanted to check out. Even owning this MiSTer, even having bought the MiSTer Pi, which I then sold to somebody who wanted it more than me for the same price I paid. I didn't want to overcharge them, but I just like buying these things and trying them out. And then if a friend or somebody else wants them more than me, I will give them away and go buy something else in there. But this is the second iteration of something that Retro Remake has come out with that runs all this MiSTer software. And having the open source is really nice. Fallen Rascal also points out they wish the Analog 3D was open FPGA. It's a beautiful console. That's a strange thing. Analog makes these FPGA consoles, and they look really nice. They have super nice, like, fit and finish on them is incredible. They accept real cartridges, which is really cool to me because I have a bunch of, like, N64 games and stuff back there. And being able to plug in a cartridge is really cool to me. Again, it just feels like I'm just getting a new, like, a pro version of a console that I loved as a kid. But they, with the Analog 3D, did not make it so you could develop anything for it. They locked it down, which is sad because they opened up their Analog Pocket, the portable FPGA project, to where you could develop stuff for it. And there's a bunch of open source cores out there that are really, really cool to see and impressive and everything, and they locked it down. It's part of the thing that's called out on the Retro New or Retro Remake website for the SuperStation One, is that they're not going to lock down the hardware and the openness of it just to sell future hardware, which I think is a good plan. It's a cool plan, and I appreciate it. So that's, like, low level, or I guess high level of what this MiSTer stuff is and what's going on here. The other thing is, last time we spent a lot of time talking about Snac and trying to debug why a real controller wasn't working on this. So just to quickly go over that, I will put links down in the description of better videos you can watch about this. One, for instance, is What Ken's Making, that YouTube channel. He does a great job of explaining the MiSTer and how it works and everything. But one of the coolest things about the MiSTer is using real controllers. So I have my like normal DualShock controller that I can plug into this, and I can connect it in here and begin to play with a real controller. So, oh, wrong view. I think that's really cool. I think that's super awesome that you can use this real stuff, because I never feel like, oh, the modern controller doesn't quite translate to this. I mean, the PlayStation controllers did have like the touch sensitive buttons at points. I don't remember if that affected the PS1 or just PS2, but there are like unique controller features that are interesting to see here. And what the Snac port is, as far as I understand it from these same videos that you can go watch that I'll put in the description, is that the MiSTer menu that pops up here is running on basically the two cores in here. There's one side of the MiSTer that is ARM, and then it runs Linux, and it runs the menus. So all these menus are basically bypassing any of the console recreation. They're like the overall operating system for this. But anytime someone develops a PlayStation Core for the MiSTer that uses the FPGA hardware that tries to recreate a PlayStation so it thinks and feels like a PlayStation and thinks it is a PlayStation and works with all of the hardware, that's all going on the FPGA side. So they have the ARM side for the menus, and so anytime you plug in a USB controller, like I have here with my like 8-bit DOE controller, that can control the menus. I can hit a button up here, I can hit a button and I can pull up that menu and go through everything. So that's really handy to pull up menus. You can go through and then do save state. You can enable cheats and do all this stuff. But if you plug in a real controller into one of these on most MiSTers, I would have a user port here, this blue one. That would be my Snac port. So what that does is it bypasses all the ARM Linux side of this and goes straight to the FPGA core, which again, at this point should be programmed to think that it is a PlayStation. So that bypasses everything to go direct to what it thinks is a PlayStation and go directly into that, bypassing all of the USB polling stuff, any USB protocols, and it just goes direct to the GPIO pins on the FPGA. But the problem with that is every single core, if we go back to this view, when I pull up this menu, this core has to be set up, and I have to go in and say that I want pad 1 to be a Snac port, and I want pad 2 to be a Snac port. Because out of the box, this core does not know that you're bypassing all the USB, all the ARM Linux menus in here, and trying to go direct into the FPGA through the GPIO port or pins and connect to Snac. So that's the like, again, I'm trying to just do a high level of this so that people understand, because we're going to be talking about this quite a bit. So that's the cool thing about the MiSTer is most of the cores for specific consoles, like the Saturn core, I can use my real Saturn controller if I plug it in Snac. The PlayStation core, I can do the same. The NES, Super Nintendo. But if there is a brand new core, it might not have Snac support out of the box, so you might need some other adapter or something to do it. But those are the two forms we're going to see, is like the USB controllers and then Snac controllers that go direct into the console and should be absolutely zero latency, like lowest absolute latency, but there's ways to fix that too. So that's the 2 points of this. The other people I've mentioned is just like Lose Retrosource does a lot of MiSTer videos. If you're interested in like being up to date with MiSTer and seeing the things that are coming out of it, you can go view that channel, and they're really cool to follow and just see what new things are being added to MiSTer. The other thing is Retro RGB. He covers a lot of MiSTer stuff and also elevates a lot of Lose videos on his own channel. So that whole network is helpful. Again, what Ken's making also covers a bunch of this stuff. Video Game Esoterica, Pixel Cherry Ninja also covers this. And then a lot of the debugging stuff I've been doing with this has been, I've been on the Taki Discord, where he's been, letting us know the status of SuperStation One, fixes, process, and everything like that. And Zyber and Incognito Man have been super helpful over there at helping debug stuff. So if you have one of these or getting one, go join that Discord. I'll put a link in here for it. But it's very helpful if you need any just tips and tricks on not only the SuperStation One, but also just MiSTer in general. So that's all my housekeeping upfront stuff. And let me look at some of these comments in here. Fallen Rascal says, great pricing for this. I think it's only $199 UK and $45 for the dock. It's in taxes and shipping that gets you. Yeah, the shipping, I'm in the US, it was pretty, like, I wouldn't say like exorbitantly expensive, but it was not the cheapest shipping and everything, but still, for the price of this, that's pretty incredible. Like the multi-system that I have here, which I got at the height of the DE10 Nano, the MiSTer chip that's used for this. I got this at the height of the pricing for that. So this was, I think, $600 for everything all in. It came with a lot more accessories and keyboards, controllers, SCART cables, a nice power supply, like all this other stuff. It has Tap 2 and everything in there. But even then, the SuperStation One is recreating most of what that does for a much, much cheaper price. And then Fallen Rascal says, if this can be used in 240p, I'll be all over it like a rash. Awful image, but yes, it definitely does that. I will hook it up later to show that for sure. Yeah, let's talk about something else. So I mentioned the accessories. Let's go top down here. So again, this is a SuperStation One feature, is that it has these PlayStation ports built in, so I can plug directly into them. And what those are is it's like a Snac adapter. My MiSTer Multisystem has a USB port on the front that is Snac. So to run something from that in the past, let me grab it over here. To run something like this in the past, I've had to get some type of Snac adapter like this. This is the Snac X64. And what this has is 4 ports for different Snac controllers. And then I bought all these adapters so I can run a PlayStation controller, I can do a Saturn controller, I can do a Super Nintendo controller, a Nintendo controller, a Genesis, and then I can also do, this doesn't work with the Snap adapter, but this is an adapter for the Wii accessory controllers. So to do my multi-system, I plug all this stuff up and I can use that in here. The one benefit is, again, to me, less wires, easier setup. When I use the SuperStation One, I just can plug directly into the front of it. Also, it is PlayStation themed. So it's not going to support all of these out of the box. And that is one, I don't know, future state for this. They're not locking it down. You can get the dock for this. That is, let me check my notes. I think it's $45 if you pre-order that now. I'm not pushing anyone to pre-order. I'm just trying to mention the prices so I can be accurate with this stuff. There's a dock that'll plug onto the bottom of this. And so on the very bottom, it has this little port, kind of like a GameCube. You'd plug this in, it would go into the dock. And so what that dock is supposed to add, which I'm very excited for, is it'll have the Snac port that bypasses these PlayStation Ones, so that if you want to use one of these adapters and plug in your Saturn or Genesis controller or whatever else, you can use that on here. That is one limitation of, like, out of the box. It's not super easy for me to plug in an N64 controller for this because it is mainly catering towards the PlayStation crowd. But it is just one thing that, like, out of the box, if you're wanting something PlayStation themed, this is great for that. If you're wanting to play N64, it's where it gets a little iffy, and I don't know if they're planning on making different variations of this hardware that have N64 ports built in and everything like that. But the nice thing is, you don't have to buy more of these. This will still run N64 games. It'll run everything else you can do, and I'll show you how to connect some of those. But out of the box, that was something I was kind of thinking that the base unit had a Snac port, so that I could reuse these and immediately replace my multi-system and just go to this nice, sleek piece of hardware here. I can't do that because I can't use any of these right now. But there is another accessory that I got, because when I got MiSTer, I got a bunch of accessories just to experiment with all of it. And that is the Reflex adapter. This is getting messy. So the Reflex adapter from MiSTer Add-ons, I believe. What this does is it plugs in just USB. This is a really long USB cable that they sent with this. But this USB cable plugs in, and this device does all the encoding from real hardware to USB. Yes, there is probably some, probably not really perceptible, but there is probably going to be some lag as it goes from the, like, real circuits on here to USB protocol and sends it in. But this supports all my adapters. So I can plug this in. It does HDMI for these connectors, I think, because it's just a cheap connector to do with a lot of pins on it. But I can use this on an N64 core and everything. The only thing is I will have to remap this like it is a Bluetooth controller. I'll have to go into the settings and remap it because it is not Snac. This is trying to turn this into USB, and I can use USB on this. If it was Snac, I would open the N64 controller. I wouldn't have to rebind a thing because the controller would know that it's going into what it thinks is an N64 and connect up there. So if you are interested in plugging in real N64 controllers to this, you could get an adapter like this and kind of daisy chain them, and that would work. Or you could wait and get a dock and use the Snac adapters, or you could get a Nintendo Switch Online controller or a USB N64 controller and plug it into this. You have so many options. Like, I don't want you to feel like you're limited with this because you have so many ways that you can get a controller to this. I like to think about like, oh, I don't want to have any perceptible lag on this with my controllers, but am I perceiving it? I probably am not. I just like the added benefit of just knowing, hey, I've got this hardwired in directly to the FPGA where it thinks it's the console, and it's the lowest lag I could possibly get. I'm probably getting in my head too much about that, but it's just something I think about. Let's see. Fallen Rascal, yeah, it's a lot of adapters. I also went down the rabbit hole of like, well, if I wanted to play N64 with 4 players, I would have to buy 4 adapters in here, which is why the analog was like a cool thing that out of the box, it allows all the multiplayer. And the MiSTer is an open project. It is part of the cool thing about this is that you can kind of do whatever you want. You could 3D print an adapter that has all the N64 stuff hooked up to it and just dive in if you wanted to. One thing that Taki has also said that he's working on is making a Snac controller work in the menus. So when I hit the buttons on the USB controller and pull up these menus, he's trying to work on getting it to function in these menus, which would be very cool. As far as I know, no one's done that in the MiSTer community so far, because it would have to kind of make its way through the FPGA to the ARM side running Linux to do that. So I don't really know how that'll work, but it'll be cool if it does work because you could just use one controller for everything, especially because a PlayStation controller works for most of these. It has most of the required inputs for most of these things. So if you wanted just one controller wired in, that'd be very cool. The other thing that I'll mention in here is that if you are coming to this, I got a few comments on like, this menu looks bad. Where is the menu that Taki showed off in videos? That is coming. They talk about it on the Discord some. That is something that is going to happen and is going to get added, but this is all open source. And he is contributing the new fancy menu that has game artwork, and it is simplified like in the way like an analog console would be, like the Analog 3D or anything, to where it is going to look nice, hopefully be easy to use, because this menu is a little intimidating. It's just like monochromatic. If you hit the home menu multiple times, it has these kind of side menus in here. You have all these, configurations. The MiSTer is complicated, but I think it is complicated in a way that it can do so much and it's so powerful. You can get used to this menu really quickly, I think. I just think if you hop in and you boot this up for the first time, you might be a little scared by going in here, especially if I go in and select console, and then I find, hey, this is supposed to be a PlayStation game, so let me do PSX, and then it boots up here, and it will just boot up with no game. Well, how do you get the game? You hit the menu button again, and then you would load Q, CHD, CD up here, and then you would pick the game that you want to play. So like it does not take that long to learn, but I will give everyone, because I had the same thought, I was watching a bunch of videos trying to learn this, it does take a little bit of time to get used to the layout. There's so much customization. Those things that pop up in the corner that say what the output is and all the hertz and everything, you can turn any of those on and off. You can modify if these boot straight to like the BIOS or kind of load a game by default. You can also do a really cool thing where if it sits on the menu, it will do, I believe it's called Super Attract mode, and it will search through your whole library of games on here. It'll pick one and it'll just start playing the intro here, which is a cool thing. Just if you're not messing with your MiSTer, it's like a fun old cable television that you never know what's going to come on next. And it'll just rotate, and at any point you can pick up a controller and play that game as it rotates through. So there's just really cool scripts and things you can do with the MiSTer that I think this project is awesome. But I definitely understand if someone says that's $199 currently on the Retro Remake store. I could just run this on my phone. Sure, you can do whatever you want. You can emulate however you want. This is just a really cool consoleized version of the MiSTer project, which I'm extremely fond of and have been slowly getting more and more into. So it's just it's a cool thing. It's nice to have more options if people want real controllers and want this stuff. It's a cool thing to be able to do, I think. I feel like that's it for my big spiel on what is this for the people who have been asking. And we can move on to playing some stuff. So before I blow up how my cameras are laid out right now, I want to talk about the connection and everything in here. We'll go back to top down. So I showed this earlier, but the MiSTer multi-system has a MiSTer right here, and then it has this basically like attachment board that opens up a bunch of inputs and things that you can do. It has my Snac port. They have the RFID reader here for Zaparoo. It has the SCART output, has a little fan in the side. It's got your VGA out. It's got your headphone out, digital audio, HDMI. It has a little extender here to get my USB out there, but it's kind of bulky. So the SuperStation One, I opened this up because I was trying to diagnose my controller problems, and then I remembered I screwed one screw back in. Let me grab my screwdriver. So this has most of the same things in it. And I was very impressed by that. I didn't quite remember what the specs were on it. So here is the board for the SuperStation One. And I can try to center this up so you can see more of it. And so we have all of the component output along the side, composite output. This one is called Con. I don't know what that one's for. This is S-Video. There's the DIN 10 port, and then the VGA out. Try to center this up some. And then these are the two Snac ports. There's some really nice labeling on this. I don't know if this is normal, but even for the switches over here, they're all individually labeled on the motherboard itself, which is really cool to see just because it's very clear. I don't know that I understand all of it, but I think it is cool that all that is in here and very clear. They also have a spot for a what is it called? The like nickel cell battery that you would put in there, the coin battery, if you wanted to do the real-time clock and everything and have this remember what the time of day is. It also has the Ethernet plug, and over here, yes, in this corner, I don't know. Yeah, you can kind of see that. That, I believe, is the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth antenna because it's the only other antenna I see coming out of this. And then in the front, which is oddly positioned, this is the RFID antenna here. So this is what will read Amiibo. It will read RFID cards. It can do a bunch of stuff, and that's all using the Zaparoo project, which I will show later. I have a bunch of Amiibo over to the side here, and you can set this up so that if you touch you can reprogram an Amiibo, you can reprogram an RFID card, like one of these I have from the Tap2 Now Zaparoo project, and you can have these launch games. So I mentioned earlier that Analog 3D does not let you, or sorry, the Analog 3D does let you put real consoles in. Currently, this does not do that. So one cool project is setting up these RFID cards, and you could put a little cover on this, like I got this with my MiSTer Multi-System project. These little indie games, 240 Test Suite, Cyborg Force, Astbros, what was this one? This is Demons of Asterberg. So any of these could launch a game, and they have this cool artwork on them. So I've seen a lot of people recreate like fake little, it has fake little like artwork on them. So you can make a little like, you can make a tiny 3D printed Ristar thing, and it could have an RFID chip in it, and you could touch it to the console, and it would launch that game. So you have a bunch of cool compatibility on there. That's the Zaparoo project. It used to be called Tap2, and they renamed it, so that's why you'll see these cards say that, because I had these from a while ago. But the project is really cool. There's a phone app, and so last night I was reprogramming these different amiibos to launch different games, and you just tap these to your phone, and then you go in and say, I want this to launch Megaman, I want this to launch Castlevania, and then it syncs it all to your MiSTer wirelessly while this is either connected to Wi-Fi or internet in some way, and then you can reprogram all those to launch, and it is super cool. I honestly had not messed with it other than the ones that were built in when I got my multi-system, and surprisingly, I moved all these ROMs over to this console, and these all still launch like I expected them to. So it's really cool to have that, and it just opens like more customizability, which is fun. You can even have it you could have a little mini PlayStation card that you tap to that just opens the PlayStation, or that shuffles a game and picks a random game out of your entire library and starts it playing. Like there's so many cool things on there. I was wondering if this would be included in the dock only, but the fact that it's built in by default, super cool, and I am kicking myself for not trying that on the multi-system almost at all, and now finally getting into it. It is really cool to see. But yeah, that's the SuperStation. These again are the Snac ports, and I do think it's interesting that they have a screw here and a screw here, and this board comes out, it has one ribbon cable to it. So that made me wonder, is there a planned revision to this board where it would be N64 ports? Because theoretically, this whole port just comes off and you could put a new Snac in with a different adapter. And that would be really cool to see, especially from like a manufacturing standpoint. It seems, in my mind, knowing nothing about this, that would be a simpler way to say, this board is done. Let's just swap out controllers if we make different editions of this. Again, Taki Retro Remake does not need to do that because you can provide your own adapters, you can use the dock, do anything else, but it is cool that seemingly that would be easy to do because of the way the board is built, that these are separate from everything else. I will put this back on, and you know what? I'll probably put that screw back in so I don't accidentally open this back up. So give me a second on that. I guess the only thing from taking this apart that I was slightly annoyed by, I was doing this to check and see if maybe something had come disconnected in the Snac port, because again, in the last live stream, I just had a little trouble getting those connected. This has those silly rubber feet that stick in the corner, and you have to remove those to get the screws out on all four corners of this. It seems like they'll stick back pretty easily, but it just like leaves the residue on it, and I kind of wish those feet didn't immediately cover up the holes. I don't know if I voided some warranty by opening this up, but it is an open source project, so I thought, what's the harm of me going in here? Maybe that was silly, but I thought that I would actually not have those rubber feet to rip off. That seemed like an old console thing of having to rip something open or tear it or remove the adhesive to get at the screws. Let's see, I have some comments here. Let's see, Fallen Rascal, yeah, if they get the UI like the 3D, that would be awesome. I don't mind the openness. I don't mind the openness of these, but it would be nice to have a very clean menu on the SuperStation. I must say it does seem like an amazing product. Yeah, I would agree. Like that menu is icing on the cake. The Zaparoo project has also shown a menu that looks nice and simple, like a console experience, or like kind of anyone could hop up to and launch a game. So that's really interesting to see as well. That is also not out of beta as far as I'm aware or available, but there may be some Discord you can join to maybe get access to it. I haven't seen any updates recently from it. And then the same with what they're working on for the SuperStation One. That nice menu, I think will be really handy because this looks like a plug and play console, and then the second you boot it up and see this, it may scare some people. But you have full functionality to run everything. Like that is not to say that this is work in progress, because you have a full MiSTer out of the box that can do everything a MiSTer can do, which can do so many consoles and so many things on here. It's just not as streamlined as something compared to like an analog product, which they've spent a lot of time getting those menus perfectly laid out and looking nice and simple and clean, but they also lock it down so you can only play the way they want you to play, which is unfortunate. Fallen Rascal says that's really well built. Yeah, the white motherboard especially looks cool on that. Raw Talk says they said Zaparoo would be on the SuperStation. Yep, it's all in here and you can use it. It does take some setup. I can show you that in a little bit if that's helpful. Fallen Rascal, that sounds awesome. So much to tinker with. Yep. Land J801. Can't wait for the dock to be finished. The anticipation is killing me at this point. And then Fallen Rascal has similar comments. Yeah, I think the disk drive puts this above competing products. Yeah, I haven't even talked about that. Sorry. The other thing the dock has, besides having more USB ports and the Snac port so that you can plug in your real controllers if you don't want to use a PlayStation controller with the PlayStation Core, it also has a disk drive. And the thing I'd always heard with the MiSTer is that it is better to put stuff on a solid state drive, M2 drive, the not USB, micro SD card or something on there to put games on there, because reading from real hardware is slower. And so we haven't really seen, as far as I'm aware, anything with the MiSTer projects that has had real hardware and things plugged in to get connected on this. I'll pull a game up while I talk about this so you don't have to just look at me the whole time. But the dock will have a CD drive in it, and it will run PlayStation 1 games live from the CD drive. The thing a lot of people were asking initially was, oh, if I do this, will it only back up the game and basically copy it to a hard drive, and then it would read from it, so it's not really real? A lot of people were wondering about that, but as far as we've been told by Taki, it is reading from that, your real hardware, and that's the super cool thing about the Analog 3D, Analog Pocket, these ones that have the real cartridge adapters in them, plugging it in like a real console, no real extra work, and just launching the game like the good old days where you didn't have to run updates and do all this stuff. You would want to run updates on this. I don't know why you wouldn't. But it is really cool that the dock will do that, and I believe from what I saw in the Discord just today, Taki was talking about, or it might not have been today, recently, he was talking about that they do have the boards in his office and they are starting to do the like testing and ramping up, assembling and doing all that stuff. So I don't know when those ship out. There's currently no date as far as I'm aware as to when those will come out, but that dock will be super cool to see because it just expands things more and gives you more options. I still don't know, this is probably me being oblivious, if you can put like a Saturn disc in there and it will go to the Saturn core. I don't think it's limited to just PlayStation games. I think it just reads any of that media, but I'm not totally sure. It's mainly been advertised with the PlayStation mindset, with also being a MiSTer that can do anything else. Let's see. Oh yeah, Landed Jay says controller swaps would be cool if it actually fits. Yeah, I guess if they were to send out like a user replaceable controller swap in here, you'd probably need some new shell on this or something like that. But my mentioning of that was more like, this seems like it might be easy for assembly, knowing nothing about how things are assembled. Let's see. Landed also says, funny thing is I'm getting the dock mostly for the IO. Yep. It just expands all the stuff on there. Let me see. I don't know off the top of my head. I don't know if you do, Landed, what the all the different ports it adds to it. Let me see if I can pull it up so I'm not making things up about it. Okay, so the dock has a DVD RW drive with tray loading. It has space for an NVMe M2 2280 slot, so you could have that where you plug the dock in and it just has all these games loaded onto it. Micro SDs, I believe, have a limited number of writes and sometimes are finicky and are probably more expensive than an M2, but maybe not anymore with the current pricing. It has 4 USB Type A ports, a Snac bypass port, a USB Type-C, UART debug, a USB Type-C PC mode, an IR sensor, and IR remote, which I didn't know until I read this today and then forgot all about it. So you could control the MiSTer from a remote and swap around games, and you could probably ditch, if you're using Snac controllers, you could probably use a remote to control all the menu, maybe, and get past there. And then it has additional I/O expansion. I don't have a picture of it right here to see what those are, of what the additional I/O is, but it says it has it, and I'm sure we'll learn more about that in the future. And let's see, Fallen Rascal says the same. USB ports with the drive, definitely worth the extra. And also says it's a nice thing to allow real disks to play. However, most people will definitely just run backups. Hopefully running a disk does boot to the core. Now that would be something. Yeah, I would assume it would somehow know, but I have no idea how that works. Or if you would pull up the menu and say insert disk, and then it would show up as like one more option on here that would say drive, and then it would check for it. I truly have no idea. Another project out there is the MiSTer Multisystem 2. It's a sleeker version of the one I showed you earlier, and they have some extra expansion ports on it, and so I've seen that they've been gearing up to produce a thing that snaps onto the side and can play Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance games and read from the cartridge there, which again, we've seen that from the Analog Pocket. I had always wondered if that just, like, those games don't need a super fast read speed, so it runs from that fine. But that's really cool. I'd be interested to see, again, how this expands and if more connections, more ports, more adapters come in the future. But okay, I feel like we've talked enough about this, so let's play some actual games on it, and I'll go back to this split view. So, oh, you know what? I'll show you how I launched this. So on the right, we have the SuperStation One. I've got that labeled, so hopefully that's easy for people viewing this and not listening to the words I'm saying. And then we have the PlayStation plugged into the left side here on this monitor, and this is running from my original PlayStation to the RetroTink 4K. It's being upscaled to 1080p, just so it kind of matches the output of what I've got the SuperStation set at. So these will be somewhat comparable. I don't think this will be the type of live stream where we did with the Analog 3D where we're comparing performance. Granted, there is a PlayStation Performance Core on here, so maybe that'd be interesting to look at, but I feel like I haven't heard things about it being like the overclocked mode on the Analog 3D. That I guess if people want to see it, we can show it, but I don't get the impression it's like that. So let me go back to the default view so I can see both things in here. So we are now running Burning Rangers on the Saturn, and what I have is my Croc CD right here. And what I wanted to demonstrate was with the Zaparoo project, I can do whatever I want with this. I can put an RFID thing in here and I can touch it and it will switch to the PlayStation Core and it will switch to Croc. Nope, it didn't do it. Did I actually touch it in the right spot? There we go. Now it is switching to the PlayStation Core and then it should boot Croc. It's going through the boot menu. Going to the PlayStation. Hopefully we'll see the Croc screen here in a second. And there's the Fox logo, so we're in Croc. So all I did with this, which is a silly gimmick, but I literally just have the disc over in my PlayStation, and then in the manual here, oh, wow, I really stepped up with this manual. I just have this little RFID card. So like, you could do that if you want to keep your physical media around without the disc and just stuff these little RFID cards in whatever you want. And then you can do the party trick of touching the Croc case to this to have it launch the game. I think that is so cool. Do you need to do that for any reason? No. But also with a lot of the MiSTer project stuff, you don't need to do any of this. It's just, it's fun and it's a cool project. The one strange thing to me is because that sensor is in the like bottom corner right here, you have to like rub it on the side slightly under. I wish it was like on the top like an Amiibo that I could just touch it up there. So that was a little strange. It took me a while to find it. Luckily I had it already opened up so I could find where that signal was, but yeah, you can launch from real discs with that. And let's do split view. Okay. And I need to plug in a controller to my PS1. Let's see. Marusame, I'm probably pronouncing that right or wrong. What about PSX disk swapping for things like Final Fantasy 7, 8, etc.? I'm sure it'll work fine. Yes, as far as I'm aware, you would just pull open, let me go back to the full view here. You'd pull open this menu and you would just, you'd pull it open and then you go to load CD. And so that is basically like it seeing that a disk has swapped. So I don't think you have to do anything other than if I'm running Final Fantasy 7 and the disk thing comes up, let's say this is Croc disk 2, I would hit the menu, I would do load, and I would go to Croc disk 2. And that should be the exact same thing. There are settings in here for like CD lid closed. So you could actually toggle this to say open. And then if it does something else, it would do that. So you have options, but it really should be as easy as just opening this up and then changing the load disk to whatever the second disk would be, and that should detect it. Oh, sorry. Okay. They meant for the Super Dock. I would assume it'd be the same. My impression of this would be if the MiSTer Core is doing the thing where you are loading disks and that's seen as swapping a disk by just loading and unloading a file, I would assume the dock works exactly the same, but we haven't seen it really in action, so I guess wait and see. But I would think that'd be something top of mind, especially if Taki is looking this as the like PlayStation consoleized version of a MiSTer. I would think those Final Fantasy games would be like top of mind, but I guess we'll see. What about Monster Rancher? I don't know that I have that loaded in here, so that may have to be like a next time thing. But like, it would play fine. Oh wait, doesn't Monster Rancher that you put the discs in and it reads the disc to collect the stuff? I would still assume it works. Like my whole impression of the FPGA MiSTer project in general is that it's trying to recreate the real hardware so that the core thinks it is a real PlayStation. So like hardware compatibility is at a high level for the MiSTer project from everything I've seen and experienced. So I would assume anything that real hardware can do, if the MiSTer project doesn't do it, it's probably on their roadmap to do because that's the main thing they're aiming for from my perspective at least. So I would assume that Monster Rancher where you put other CDs in and it reads it would all work on here, but I don't, let me see. Do I have Monster Rancher in here? I do not. So I can't test that. And I guess I could swap other PlayStation discs in and do it, but I would assume it works. I haven't checked. Marasime says, I think a floppy disk with the RFID chip put in would do the meme thing of using floppy disks as a new media that you see in shows. Yeah, that'd be perfect. You could make all the jokes about like hacking into the system and just tapping something to there, or here's my super space age disk and it is just a floppy disk, or a oh, what were they called? The like, oh, those like thick zip disks and everything in there. That'd be cool to do it. Marisume says use it to boot a DOS game or something. Yeah, I would love to make 3D printed little models of like N64 games and then like plop them on here to get them to connect. I think that's very fun and ridiculous and not needed at all, but it's still cool. Okay, Marisume says you can use other audio CDs in Monster Rancher. Say open the tray, pop in an auto CD, Monster Rancher, then reads the ID of the disc to create a monster. That would be interesting because if you're doing audio CDs on the MiSTer, I'm not sure how that works because I guess you could have a backup of an audio CD and play it through here. I mean, when I go to the main menu in the SuperStation One's PSX Core, I can do play audio. So I would assume you could technically load a disc on here, but I would assume the SuperDock just makes it simpler, that you can load physical discs in and out and it would work just like real hardware. But I guess we'll wait and see whenever that comes out. I do have a pre-order on it, so hopefully I'll be able to share something when it comes in, or y'all will be if you get a version of it sooner. But let's go here. So let's see, this is my real PlayStation. I'm going to go to start game over there. And what I'm going to see, let me see if I can get this work. Here's top down. It has been spotty on which memory cards I've gotten to work with the SuperStation One so far, and talking with people on the Discord. there might need to be some firmware update. It may be because I'm running update all to get the latest and newest cores, that there's maybe a little incompatibility. The other thing I've read and seen people mention is that it seems like typically when you pull up the menu here and go in and set these Snac port 1 and 2, and you set Snac on the memory card to real, it also seems to care about if pad 1 is set to dual shock or something else. I forget, you have to hit the A button. If it's set to something else, then it will not treat the controller port 1 as a real memory card because it is basically disabling the SAT connection at that point. So at minimum, it seems like you need Snac port 1 enabled, or pad 1 set to Snac port 1 to get memory card in port 1 to work. And then same with port 2, that you might need to have that set to Snac to have it realize I need a real hardware connection, and then utilize that memory card slot as well. I've also seen people say that you need both of these set and then turn Snac memory card to real at that point. The other thing I've heard mentioned is that if you go to the side and save these settings, you might need to reboot either the whole SuperStation, MiSTer in general. You might need to reset. You might need to do a full reboot. I've seen various things on there. Let's just see how it works if I hit start. Let's see if it detected it out of the box here. It did. That's the thing that's been spotty for me so far, is just whether or not memory cards read. I have the MemCardPro2. I have not gotten that to work on here so far. I also have the Pocket Station. While it does light up, and it is cool to see, let me plug it in. Wherever I have it. Okay. I have the little Pocket Station, which turns into a little memory card, which is very cool. It lights up. It says hello to me, shows a little heart. It should show me that there's 3 blocks on here. Yep, there's 3 little saves on here. No, wrong zoom. And then the Croc only cares about memory card 1. But I haven't got this to show up in here as well. The thing I got to work was this cheap memory card that is currently in here right now. This cheap one that I got for $5 at a store recently. $6, wow. Which is a shame because I have the MemoryCard Pro 2, which is supposed to defeat the need for any extra memory cards. But it hasn't worked so far. It's been hit or miss. Again, it may be due to doing update all and changing some of the specific things that are on the SuperStation One that maybe aren't committed to the main MiSTer repo, and trickling down to things. It may be some other setting I've messed up. Not quite sure, but it seems like the memory cards have had more trouble than the Snac ports from what I've seen. So we can load this 0% save just to show that it is in fact saving on here. And then we'll go back to split view. Let's see. Marisume says, I don't know, I'm sure it'll all work. I just thought I'd talk about the odd disk swapping for the Super Dock, such as CDs and such. Yeah, it is interesting. I hadn't thought about any of that, even the Final Fantasy switching. But again, I would assume that's top of mind for someone trying to recreate a PlayStation, that they would know about disk swaps, but we'll see. Marisume says, might need to pray under a full moon to the retro gods. Yeah, to get early shipping on that, I would assume. Any info on whether multi-card cards or singles work better over the other? Again, I've only tried a really... I'll put these on the top down again. I have tried this Mad Catz memory card. I've tried the MemoryCard Pro 2, which I updated to the absolute latest firmware. And I did test both of these on the PlayStation. I guess I can show that too. That would be smart, huh? To confirm my bias that these work. And if I go to split view and turn this back on, I guess we'll see it light up here probably. It should light up. There we go. Okay. So it shows Croc 1. And I'll go back to split here, wait for the PlayStation Normal to boot up. So I have made a Croc save. This memory card 2 is what I used to beat Croc with. So it has all my saves for Croc on it. I have not yet got it to be seen on the SuperStation One, but maybe I'm lucky today and things have worked themselves out. But so it seems like, as far as I've tested, the Pocket Station has not shown me anything, and only the cheap third-party memory card that I bought the other day has worked on this so far. The plain Mad Catz has not worked and actually fits in there really tight to a worrying degree. So that one's been odd, but I haven't gotten... I'm wondering if this PlayStation, did you just stop booting here? Let me turn you off and back on. But that's the real only recurring problem I've seen with the SuperStation One so far, is just spotty use of the memory cards. Again, it does not prevent you from using it, because you can just save directly to the SD card with memory cards. You could even take your MemCardPro 2, dump all the saves to your computer, load it on the SD card for the SuperStation One, and then load them on there. If you have some way to get those memory cards onto your computer, you could do that as well. But yes, I would hope by the time that this is like, you can order it and it ships to you that day, that all these kinks are worked out. But it is a little bit of the like openness, and like, I don't know many consoles that I don't buy an Xbox and then like update it to include a bunch of extra features that Microsoft doesn't know about the day after I get it. And introduce a bunch of things. It's more like, I guess, making something compatible on PC where anyone could add any hardware combination after you hand it to them. That makes it hard to debug. But hopefully we'll see some changes to that in the future to make it a little more dependable there. Okay, so we have PlayStation on the side here, and we have SuperStation One. And I hit start game. I didn't even go to load. I wanted to show you all my saves. Let me go quit to the thing. Let's see. May says, I have a Mad Catz 8X with LCD number thing and a Mad Catz 2X with the Switch for the PS1. I have seen that one with the button in stores a lot. As soon as I get my tax return, I'm buying a SuperStation One and a dock this month. I hope they start shipping out soon, because yeah, I've been... As someone who has been doing MiSTer stuff, the form factor of this is so nice, and it's so cool, and I'm very excited to see that menu in the future. So here we go. Here is SuperStation One versus the PlayStation. Really, you should see no difference in this. The only thing I would think is that you might see, I've enabled 24-bit color on the MiSTer Multisystem, and that's not on the PlayStation as far as I'm aware. So you have some things there that you can enable and change. You have like CD fast loading you can enable, and some of the MiSTer cores, not all of them. If you're coming here hoping to do save states, this PlayStation Core actually does have save states. It'll save them to the SD card, and it'll start, you can auto increment them each time, so you're not like erasing a previous one. That's really cool. From what I've heard, that takes a lot of work to implement, because again, at minimum, they're trying to recreate every circuit in a PlayStation, and then the stretch goal would be, I'm going to add a bunch of stuff the PlayStation couldn't do. So do not bank on save states being here. You should think of this as mainly that the MiSTer is going to recreate exactly the hardware with no save states, no Game Shark, nothing like that. But most of the cores, the people who develop them and people who contribute are adding really cool stuff on there to add save states, to add Game Shark codes, to add all these filters and things in there, which I'll show filters in a second. Okay, and I was going to show you how these saves work, just to confirm that they're on the PlayStation. And then, yeah, we got good old Croc on the SuperStation One here, and it should really be just like you remember, with almost no changes. And I can enable my analog input because I'm using a DualShock 2 on here and get my free turning rather than Croc's normal Tomb Raider turn here. And then back on the normal PlayStation, if we go to the load game, we should see a bunch of We should see a bunch of saves, is what I was gonna say. Put it back in. What have I done? Or my... Oh, wait, I'm on a different channel. That might be it. Huh. What have I done? Let me go back to channel 1, where I think my saves were. Okay, there are all my Croc saves. So when I played through Croc on the PS2 and used this memory card, I have all these saves that go all the way up to like 96% or something like this. And then I couldn't figure out where to grab the last things, and or the platform was hard. So I would expect putting this into the SuperStation One would just work. And so far it hasn't, but hey, let's go back out to the menu on this. Let's go to Quit Game, and I'm going to do the thing that everyone has told me not to do, that I shouldn't be hot swapping memory cards in the middle of a game. Let's load this. What? Will anything happen if I take the memory card out of Croc after I've loaded the save? Not so far. Let me go back to top down. Here's the MemCardPro 2. I've had no issues with these lighting up, with them showing up and seeming like they're working and getting all the power they need and doing everything there. And then let's go back to the default view where I'm just looking at this, and then let's go to load game. And here is something that's happened, because I don't think it's loading up here. Yeah. Here we go, here we go. Is it working? Okay, I'm pressing start. This is all on real controller. No memory card inserted. And as you can see in my SuperStation One, there is 2 memory cards inserted. But everyone told me, do not hot swap these memory cards live. That is not how you get Snac to work. So I'll just turn the whole thing off. I will turn it all back on. I don't know if that came over the mic, but you could hear the MemCardPro 2 opening up. It should be cycling through here. I'm going to take my Croc disc. I'm going to again do my party trick and touch it to the SuperStation One. There we go. Finally found the tap spot. Again, I would think it would be a wider zone to get that to launch. I also saw differences in like these Zaparoo cards that I had seem to be put out less signal than these Tap 2 cards that I later got that are unbranded for you to add whatever to. So I don't know if the signal would help, but like the amiibos, those seem like they got 0 signal at all, because I have to rub those things all over the SuperStation One to get it to connect. And I would just, again, the switch where I just set it on one very clear spot, I like that feature. Even the MiSTer Multisystem has like a little logo here that says Tap 2. I mean, it is a sticker, but that at least lets me know that I should touch there. And I didn't know, since there is no manual out for the SuperStation One yet, there's no even diagram showing what the ports are and what they do, as in I didn't know that the DIN 10 port was used for SCART. That is something that you just kind of have to figure out. And I'm sure that stuff is coming, but it's in early production. I don't think the first batch of everything is fully out there yet. Okay, we're going back to load game. I'm still using my real thing. No memory card inserted in slot 1. I've, again, updated the firmware on my MemCardPro 2. I don't know why it wouldn't be connecting. I'm going to switch over here, unplug the MemCardPro 2. I'm going to plug in this cheap $5.99 one that feels hollow. And there's my save. So I have no idea what the difference would be and why one would work and the other wouldn't. But that's really the only thing I've noticed so far that I've been disappointed in, is like, I really want these memory cards to work and I cannot figure out why they are not. But again, I've been running stuff by people in the Discord, and they're looking into it and talking about maybe some firmware updates or some settings need to be changed, or we need some like better instructions for how to do your first time setup. One of the things that has been cautioned several times, and it was mentioned in the last video as well, in the comments, of when you get this, you should probably back up that SD card somewhere, because there is not a hosted area where you can get the original SD card image with the indie games that are built into it, or the core settings and everything that's set up initially. So you probably want that so that you can return back to it if you need to, if you notice any incompatibility with a new version of Update All or something like that. Marasame says fast loading, so the PS2 speed hacks. Yeah, I would assume so. It's all in the menu. I lost connection with this controller. There we go. In the menu here, you have the miscellaneous, and you can do like fast boot in here. There's also turbo for cheats, and you'll notice there's this U equals unsafe. So when you turn some of these on, you will see a U next to it, showing that that is an unsafe option, and some games will not boot if they are in the unsafe, and it'll give you a warning and stuff like that. So there are different options. You can change CD speed, you can limit the, like, you can do some interesting things on here. You can also do some stuff which I find extremely cool that you can put, if I selected the right one, an FPS overlay on here, so we can see how fast Croc is running. Which is very cool. When I was doing the analog 3D testing, I tried to get Teardrop running on my raw footage to compare and see what it was, how it was actually performing, and I could not, for the life of me, get that thing to work in a way that felt right. It felt like it was, I was seeing huge frame drops and it would still say the game was running at 60, so it's very cool to have it just built into the hardware to compare what this is like. And yeah, it is like, the most boring version of this is it looks like the PlayStation, and when I put them side by side, it's just Croc. There's nothing real unique here. With anything, it is just, it plays it like you would expect a PlayStation to play this game. And if you know anything about Croc 1, it's a lot harder to control than maybe it appears. But you know what? It's still kind of fun. Kind of a fun platformer, even though it's got some real frustration. But yeah, there's cool things you can do with these cores. There's also some overclocked cores, one for the N64 that is pretty close to the analog 3D overclocking from some videos I've seen. It does similar things of like speeding up the CPU and GPU, which helps for, I think, CPU-bound games like GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, and a lot of first-person shooters in there. So that is cool to see. Let's see. Marisame says, this all has me feeling retro right now. I'm going to boot up my Saturn with the hacked action replay 3-in-1 on my retro tank. Oh no. I did get a Saturn recently. I haven't shown it off. I got a Saturn, and then I got the Saturn Zaparoo to run games and homebrew and everything off of, and that's a very cool controller. That was also something I'm sad that I can't do the Snac port, because for Nights into Dreams that I've never played, I got the Saturn 3D pad because I wanted to know, I know that Nights into Dreams was designed for this weird stick, and I didn't want to miss out on the true realistic Nights into Dreams feeling, so I got this. And on my normal MiSTer Multi-System, I can use the adapter, I can plug this in Snac, and I get the Saturn FPGA core thinking it's got a Saturn 3D controller all plugged into it, which is really, really cool. So I can't wait for the dock to enable stuff like that. Let's see. Langdon J, I was thinking of doing a favorites list, but now I'm leaning towards making Zaparoo binder for all the classics. Yeah, that's really cool. And that is, let me go back to this default. We'll go back up here. We'll go back to the main menu. Favorites list is easy to set up in here. I haven't done one, but you literally just pick through the stuff. Let's see. I think, was this built in? I think this script was already in here. So like, if you open the MiSTer, the main menu, I use these 8-bit DOE controls, which work really well, that the kind of menu button at the top activates everything. I hit that once, I go down to scripts, I say, yeah, I can actually say don't ask me again about this. And favorites, you would just pick out games from your list, and you could have a menu at the very top level here that says Homebrew, Arcade, Computer, Console, Favorites, and then you could have what are the games you're going to play. But setting up these little RFID cards, really cool, and it's a fun, chintzy way to do that. Let's see. The other things that are built into here is that it does have Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and real-time clock is the RTC. So this checks the status of those things. Pass for Wi-Fi because I did get this connected to my Wi-Fi. Fail for Bluetooth because I haven't paired anything. But you can pair any Bluetooth device. That in the back right of the console, that seems to be where the antenna is for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Which is nice because my MiSTer Multisystem, I have a little USB dongle, but that saves a USB port by having that built into the console itself. And so you can connect those controllers. I haven't done the sync. I guess we could try that. What did you wanted to see? You wanted to see a PS5, Xbox, Switch 2 Pro controller through Bluetooth. Are any of those charged that I have that I could run and get in the other room? Possibly. I can try to connect one of those just to show the process. The other nice thing is like, here's the Zaparoo stuff in here. And in here, I could like manually go update these things and connect them and do stuff in there if I wanted to. You also have the web UI that it points you to here. So that's where I think you can customize more stuff. But what I have that I've found works really, really well is if I can open up the app, there's a nice app, which has like a one-time purchase. I don't know how well that shows up. But this, I just scan whatever RFID thing. So I take my Megaman, I scan it here, and then it will tell me what it's connected to and what I can reprogram it to. So I found this extremely helpful just because I don't have to rub my RFID thing all over the SuperStation One and go to a web UI. Having it on the app was actually really convenient for me to reprogram it in there. And let's see, I'll go to exit on this to show some other scripts. I have no idea what clean SD means. I don't know if that cleans stuff up or erases it. I've been scared to click on it. And then Bluetooth pairs, clearing that just does what it says. The other thing that's really useful that was built in is fast USB polling. So you can hit this, which I already have it on, but I'll click it again. This will go and reboot, and it will force all the USB ports to be at this 1000 hertz polling. So the thing I mentioned earlier is when you have a Snac controller plugged in here, that is like going straight to the FPGA. It's bypassing all the ARM, Linux, menu stuff, and going straight to the console to get the fastest response time. Another way to get probably close to that is to turn that fast USB polling on. You may have incompatibility with some controllers. I think it mentions that either here or on the GitHub for it. But if you get a controller and you turn that on, excuse me, it should just make it grab the inputs at the highest. When did that get signed out? YouTube's been doing some weird stuff lately. Is this still all connected? Sorry, my computer that was monitoring the stream just did some weird stuff here. So hopefully I'm still live. I hope so. The current stream. Okay, it seems like change dashboard. Okay, I think the stream is still working. Weird, my computer monitoring it just did some weird stuff here. But yeah, turning it to 1000 polling rate should just mean it accepts all your inputs at the highest speed they can come in. But sometimes, thank you, Fallen Rascal, for confirming that. Then that was just my little laptop over here throwing me for a loop. If you encounter issues with your controller, turn that off. But that's a really nice script to have easily in here. A lot of these settings are also in like any settings here. And this is a really scary file that opens up here that has a bunch of stuff here. And you can edit it through here, but it scares me a little bit. So I edit it on the computer. The nice thing about this is that Taki has provided, all the INI files show up most of them show up here. So your main MiSTer INI file is main. It's what the MiSTer boots to. You can also change it to exam or RGSB or SVideo. I don't know what those do off the top of my head, and I haven't switched to any of those and had like a better output from the CRTs over here that we'll get to in a minute. But it is still nice that some of those are in there. And as with most of the things in here, I would back up your MiSTer file system immediately when you get it, and from the SuperStation One, just so you have a backup. So if you modify anything, you can get back to the start here. Other scripts I've enabled is playlog, which creates a .txt file, and it will do exactly what it says. It'll show how much time you spent playing different things. And can we open it here? Okay, I can't view it here. Supposedly that's writing to a log. But you can get that up. You can also do random, which will literally just go through and pick a random game from your library and start playing it. The Reflex Updater is what I use for the Reflex adapter I showed earlier, that you can plug that in. The Reflex adapter only stores like 5 controller configurations out of the box. So you got to plug it in here, and then you change it to say, I want it to be Saturn and Guncon and something else to do that. I don't remember what Samba is, so I'll skip over that. Update all is the thing that they don't include on here, which grabs all the latest cores. It also will grab things like arcade games. It will grab things like boot ROMs and things like that. That is a gray area whether you should not be downloading those or providing your own. You have your Wi-Fi settings to get all that connected, and then Zaparoo, which I showed earlier on here. So you have some nice stuff set up out of the box. Another thing I wanted to get set up in here, but I did not have time to, is background music. So you can have it play something while you're in the menu here. And the thing I'm excited about is you can have a startup sound. So I can have the GameCube startup sound when I turn it on, which I will be doing probably after this stream, because I very much want to have a fun console startup sound for this. But yeah, that's, I feel like everything with this so far. Let me catch back up on the comments here. Morsume says, I have a stack of rewritable cards I use for amiibos, so that'll be fun to mess with. Oh, yeah. Having amiibos, which I have a ton of, or having the like amiibo accessories that let you spoof amiibos, I feel like is going to be really helpful. I thought you would have to get a blank card and then write it, but it's literally just grabbing the ID of the card and then saving that configuration to the MiSTer over Wi-Fi or whatever connection, and then it updates it. So you don't have to like wipe anything out. Maybe that was silly of me to think, but I did wonder if that was something I'd have to do. And then, yeah, I will try to connect a PS5 controller in a minute. I may go take a like restroom break in a few minutes here and send it to a commercial and grab some controllers to set stuff up, and do that then. Let's see. Canadian A77, will the Guncon 2 work with the SuperStation without the T cable or pass-through cable? Hey, Hannah, how you doing? Are you watching this video when I reply hey to you, or are you going to bail out again? Okay, I have a mess of cables here, but when I plugged in the Guncon 2 in the last stream, and I'll show it here when I get the big CRTs hooked up, Guncon 2, it has the fun PlayStation 1 adapter, and then it has, which is what I'm assuming you're calling here, is the T cable or pass-through cable. I plugged it in initially, and I didn't know what this was for because I just got this Guncon 2. I've never had one in my life. So I did try plugging this in without this cable, and it did not seem to work. But I was doing it on my HD CRT. And then I plugged the cable in and it still didn't work. And then I realized it was the HD CRT's problem. And then I plugged it into a plain CRT SD version. And by that time, I already had this pass-through already connected. So I will, when I hook it up to the TVs later, I will see if it needs the pass-through. But I would assume it does, because I thought that was the point of this, that it needs to know the video signal to know how to aim, how to shoot. I don't know. I would assume yes, it needs it, but we will test it later. But it did work on a normal CRT, which again, that's something I really like about the MiSTer, is that the original accessories work. So the price of getting a PlayStation 1 is probably not that expensive, or a PlayStation 2. There are a ton of those, and they play PS1 discs.
but then you have to get the cables. You got to get a RetroTink 4K or a 5X or a what are the other ones? I'm blanking on what they're called. OSSC, something like that. You have to get all those things, get it hooked up to a modern TV, or you could hook it up to one of your CRTs, but then you got to keep a big CRT around. So I just like the flexibility of the MiSTer. It is a small thing. I don't have to worry about like disk deteriorating or my laser going bad, but I could still use all this hardware. And I like having that option, even though I also have most of the hardware and like having the hardware. It's just cool to have a backup that if I went to software emulation today, I would not be able to use my Guncon 2 on any of that. Let's see. Lane J801 says there is a Guncon port on the SuperStation. Is that what the con port is? So you can plug it into that port. I tried plugging into that last stream, but I definitely was still on the HD CRT when I did that. So that would make sense. So I'll test that later. And yes, Lane J says T cable into Guncon port. It's a single separate RCA port on the side. Okay. I was wondering if con meant Guncon, but when I did the testing of that, I was doing it on HD CRT. So it makes sense why none of that worked for me. And then Fallen Rascal says, yeah, this seems like the perfect all-in-one. Yeah, I'm really happy with it. It's really cool. Fallen Rascal says yellow port. Yeah, just to illustrate, to do the Guncon, when I connected it, it was connecting this yellow cable through for a composite signal, but there is an extra port here that is labeled con, that is a black port. So apparently that will work for this as well. I guess, I don't know if one of y'all can answer, why would you not want to just do the pass-through for it? Would it be if you want to, could you output component, but still use this to do it? Huh. I don't know. I don't know what that would be. I don't really know why you would need a separate port unless that is like something, if there's some reason you would want to separate that. The only thought I have is if you could output through like VGA, but plug into the con port and get it to work on like VGA or something. We'll test it earlier. Let's see. Lane J says, pretty sure that's what it is. It's yellow, but the RCA color is black. Interesting. Okay. And Fallen Rascal says, think you can. We'll test that in a minute. I guess, is there anything else y'all want to see? I guess I haven't gone through, I went through all the scripts again and haven't played like many games on this, but I feel like there's just a lot to talk about of like cool features of this that I haven't done just like one-to-one gaming on it. Let's show off more Zaparoo stuff because I think that is legitimately extremely cool. So we have the SuperStation One plugged in with all my stuff. Let's get this center on screen. And what I set up earlier was I have this fun, where's his face? Megaman amiibo. Focus on this. Yep, kind of. And then I tap this to this weird corner where I have to kind of rub it around and then it connects. And look, that launches an NES core and Mega Man 2 boots up. Oh, interesting. Canadian A77 says the Guncon 2 does not have the pass-through built in like the first gun. Okay, so I guess I have a Guncon 1 then. So that would be an individual port just for the Guncon. Huh, okay. So yeah, Mega Man 2 boots up. That's cool. What other amiibo we have? We've got Richter here. And so I can hold this up, and I was also impressed. I thought you'd have to like go back to the main menu on any of this, but I attach Richter to here, and it boots up the Castlevania game everybody likes. Mago MG13 says good night. Good night. Hope you enjoyed the stream so far. It'll probably go quite a bit longer if you want to catch up on it later, but thanks for stopping by. It starts Legacy of Darkness, everyone's favorite Castlevania game. The other thing we can do is I have more amiibos. I've got little Yarn Yoshi here, and I touch him on here. Again, it's just odd. It's odd to me that it's in the like bottom. I have to almost hold this thing upside down to do it. And then it will boot up if this connects. Yay! Panzer Dragoon boots up. So there's my like amiibo selection of redoing those. And then the other thought I had is, hey, what if you had a cartridge that had the Tap 2 card inside of it? And so I have Rystar here, and I just tap Rystar to the console. And there's Rystar. Like adding these into your physical cartridges where there's a bunch of room in these shells, super cool idea. I don't know if it'll see through the plastic because I'm just holding a card to the back of it, but I assume there would be enough signal to go through the card and they use your real cartridges. So it boots up Rystar. That's cool. The other thing is these. Ugh, these were all the ones that came with my MiSTer Multisystem. So like one of them, this Demons of Asterberg, I didn't reprogram anything, and I think because I still have the ROMs that I copied over to this, it should still launch it. So I love that they're not like these seem like something is written to them because I didn't program these in. With the app is connected to my multi-system. I have it scan the network from a MiSTer nearby, and then I scan an amiibo and I say, I want this amiibo to launch this game or do anything else. The programming them is super easy, and then I touch it to it, and I assume it has saved those settings to the MiSTer. But with these cards, I didn't do anything. So these seems to like actually have them written to them directly, which is very cool because these you could theoretically, if your friend had the same games as you, you could take these over to his house and touch the SuperStation One, and it would just launch the game that you think is the best or something. Another thing I thought was cool on here is that I can also program a card to just be random. So I believe I set this up to be a random PlayStation game. We'll see what console I picked. No, random Game Boy Advance game. So now it'll launch just a random Game Boy Advance game. And this took me all of like 20 minutes to set all these up. It was so simple through the app. And I think the app does have some in-app purchase to support the developer that makes Zaparoo, which I was more than happy to fork over to get like enhanced features I probably won't even use. But it's just, this is super, super cool to me that you can do all of this. And you can even run a script from it. So you could have it like go into the attract mode. You could have it randomly shuffle stuff. You could have it turn off the USB polling if you didn't want to go into that script again. Like there's so many things you can do. And it seems super, super cool to me. I am so frustrated that I did not mess with the Zaparoo stuff earlier. But it really, really cool project. And this is not exclusive to the MiSTer. You can get one of these NFC cards and plug it into your, or NFC card readers, like the one in my multi-system is literally just a USB cable with a dongle that's set in here. So I could plug this into my Windows I could plug that into my Windows desktop and launch what have I been playing lately? Recreation. Or I could launch UFO 50 by just touching a thing. Like you could use the project works with anything. You could even have mini DVD cases and you tap those on your entertainment system PC and have it launch a movie. Like the project is very, very cool. Okay, let's see if I missed anything else. Do you have NBA Hangtime N64? I'd like to see the game running, and if it runs smoothly after the ball toss. It's annoying to emulate, lots of stutter. Let's try a specific game. Yeah. Okay. Extra cores is an interesting thing that we can try with this too. I think that's where this is, console. They have the N64 at 80 megahertz, which is the overclock. And they also have PSX 2X CPU, which I assume is at 2 times overclock, that would supposedly run games faster, but those would have some possible instability. So let's just go plain N64, and let me actually, nope, top down. Okay. Let me unplug all this stuff because I'm going to N64. I'm unplugging all this. I'm getting my N64 controller. I'm getting my Reflex adapter. I'm plugging it into the back of the console here. It's it's turning on, and it'll show N64, and it'll light up as I touch N64 buttons, and it works on these menus. So now I can use, even though I don't have the Snac pass-through on this console right now, I can use this to control these menus. So let me go back to default. So I'm using this to control the menus, and I will go to N64. It does map things a little weird with the N64 controller on here. And we will see if I have this loaded. Ooh, I don't. I think I have it on my... I think I have it on another SD card. And I don't think I have it behind me. So I will get back to that. Yeah, let me see. Let me see if I can load that up in a second. So you'll have to wait on NBA Hangtime. I'm sorry. What was one that was like notoriously slow on here but not locked? I mean, Gauntlet Legends was a slow one that benefited from the overclock before, so that might be interesting. Okay, so my list of things to do. I need to grab a PS5 or Switch controller and show you how you connect Bluetooth, and then also show NBA Hangtime. And I'd be interested on Hangtime is if I have it on the SD card in my analog, do we get better performance out of the normal core, where it's just like emulating it well, or do I have to go in and use the turbo core to get it to work? Not sure. That would be interesting to test. Let me catch up on these messages, and then I will take a break for a second to grab that stuff, run to the restroom. I'll throw you all to commercial, and I should be back after that. But let's see. Fallen Rascal. I wonder if those little NFC tags would work like the ones in packs of 100 plus. I would assume. Again, I'm fairly confident, I guess I haven't plugged this back into the Switch, that I am not reprogramming an amiibo. I am just taking the ID that this spits out, and I am telling the MiSTer what to do when it's touched with it. So I would assume whatever. I wonder if the like 100 packs would be like a weaker signal. Like I said, these felt like they didn't reach as far through the plastic as like the Tap 2 cards that I got later. So maybe there's different like signal strengths with those. I don't know. Lane J801, it would be interesting if you can use the Zaparoo card as a save load state. I'm sure you could. Like the settings in here just say like you can run different scripts, and there's a whole wiki section on how to do stuff on it. So I would assume you have all the options there. I can also search through this and see if I create a card. There's system stuff. PlayStation. There's commands. The default commands in the list are like launch, different inputs from gamepads. You can do a coin, so you could do like an arcade coin that you tap to it. Playlist loading and saving, MiSTer any updates, stop, execute, delay. Like I think you can script specific stuff in here because it has where you can just free type, and there's a whole help section. So I bet there is some way to, if not do it through the app, I wonder if you could launch a script which does activate a save state or something like that. The other thing is you could, I think, technically rebind a button on the controller to be a save state, and then you could tell this to be a controller like X button or something to do it. So I would assume that would be possible, but I have not tested it myself. Marsume, depends. I have really thick ones from AliExpress that work fine. I use my Google Pixel 6 to write them. I also have an Amiibo keychain device that can be programmed. Yeah, I guess it does depend. I was under the impression that for any RFID, I would have to reprogram the whole thing, but it does seem to, unless it is ruining my Amiibo, also be able to just read the ID of them and like connect them there. Fallen Rasco says, right, get you. It would make sense as there's a little tag struggle on a little Switch. Thanks for the info. Or struggle a little on the Switch. Yeah, you have to hold them like in place for a while a lot of times, so that would make sense. And there is like a that's a thick plastic base on there compared to a card. So maybe like this is reaching the length of one of those plastic bases, but it has nothing to block it. So I don't know. I'm making all of this up. Marasume says there are also amiibo emulators that are small devices that can store hundreds and cycle through. Yeah, you could have so many options. But I do really like the idea of a little arcade coin that has an RFID tag in it. I wonder if I could use an AirTag for that and reprogram it. You tap it to it, and that adds a coin to the arcade core that you're playing. That would be very cool to see. But what I am going to do is I'm at my limit, so I'm going to run to the restroom, and then I'm going to grab a PS5 and Switch controller. I'm going to hook those up, try to get those set up on here. I'm going to see if I can load NBA Hangtime. So I'll probably be gone for like 3 minutes. And then after that, we will hook up to these CRTs to my side and get those all connected. So give me a small couple minutes for a break, and I will be back shortly.
Okay. I think I have NBA Hangtime ready. Do I remember which of these SD cards is right? Let's see. Not split. Default view. And I have a Bluetooth controller that I will try to connect so we can play with it. Okay. It should be turning on. There we go. And let's see. I guess one thing to try. You asked specifically for PS5 controller. Can someone remind me how you put one of these into pairing mode? I may have to look it up here in a second. I also have an 8-bit-do N64 controller for the analog that I could maybe connect to, but if I wanted to try the PS5. How to do Bluetooth pairing mode. Up and create button. And the PS button. Okay. So with this, wait, I should go to the menu where Bluetooth was, I think. Yeah, when we turn the CRTs on, I can do Saturn on the CRT. Yeah, we need some suggestions for what goes on the CRTs. Let's see. I think this would be under scripts. Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. No device is paired. Does it say something after that? It's clear Bluetooth pairs. And I see the Bluetooth at the top. You know, I've never tried to connect one of these. Like, I've never tried to use Bluetooth on the SuperStation or the MiSTer project or anything like that. So, let's see. Create PS button. Oh, that's not the create button. And do you just hold the button to turn it off after I accidentally hit the right thing? Yeah, okay. Okay. It should, okay, it flashed like it's trying to pair. And then let me also look up how do you pair to F11 key on a keyboard that's connected to it, maybe? Did I connect a keyboard to it yet? Nope, that's over here. Okay. F11. DualSense controller. Okay. And look, I am hitting the buttons and it is doing it. Wow, that's pretty easy. Okay, so that is one thing
you will probably need one of these small keyboards or a big keyboard nearby for a lot of the MiSTer stuff. I am really hoping that that is something that Taki is fixing in his, not fixing, I hope that is something that Taki is addressing in his menu. Because it leads to some of the like complexity here is looking at this menu, I have no idea how to add a Bluetooth controller. I also, even though I know that I can go to these scripts, I go to those scripts and then I see that, hey, there's a Bluetooth option, but this just tells me nothing's paired. So having an easy thing to do that would be really nice. But yeah, this seems, I don't know, it seems pretty responsive. We'll go back out to here. The PlayStation button pulls up and closes the menu and everything, just like I would expect. So that's really cool. So let's check out the console. Let's do N64. This core is booting up, and then we'll go NBA Hangtime, and we'll see what that looks like. I guess I could also turn off this PlayStation. It's the longest it's been played in a long time. Because I normally run stuff through the PS2, typically. Okay, let's see. This was up here. Nope. NBA Hangtime. I'm just going to let this play and read some of these comments. There we go. Okay, start game. Select player. Sure. Pin number. Okay, that's fine. I don't need a record. Okay. Hit start. And you said that it hung after like the opening thing here. We'll see. I have no idea how to play this. Oh, this is me. Okay. Does this did you see any slowdown when it was starting up here? I don't even know if this is mapped correctly. I guess I have A and B. I don't think anything's mapped. So let's talk about the other MiSTer thing. When I pull this up, I can define N64 buttons. So right, left, down, up. A, B, start, L, R, Z, up, right, down, left. No alternate buttons. Okay. Laned J says it looks like it's running smoothly. The thing I don't know that's running smoothly is I don't know that I have this mapped correctly. Oh wait, would it be the C buttons that do stuff? It is the C buttons that do stuff. Okay, which I map to the stick. So that makes sense why I had some trouble. But yeah, it seems to function and run smoothly from what I can tell. So I hope that answers your question. The other thing to try would be, yeah, if you have a game that doesn't run well, you can do it through the kind of overclocked modes and see how those go. So let's see. I wanted to catch up on some of these comments that came in. Let's see. Lane J says there is a Zaparoo Tap 2 external reader for MiSTer, similar to loading a floppy disk, but with cards. It has scripts for insert and removal, so that the game will only play when the card is in it. Oh, that's a cool setup. That gives you the real like floppy disk, turn it on and off deal, or like open disk tray type of thing. Let's see. Lane has a batch 2 with dock, patiently waiting for that. Marsume says, found out my real Saturn controller has a short in it, so on Amazon, probably going to get an 8-bit DOE wireless adapter. That's really unfortunate. The Saturn controllers feel really nice. Out of all the Sega controllers, those I've been really impressed with. The Dreamcast is kind of fun to hold, but it feels like maybe the wrong shape. I haven't spent enough time with it, but just like the weird fins on it are a little hard to get used to, and I need to play with it more. Lane J says you can get a replacement cable for Saturns under $10. Rascal, that's awesome. In third wave, Lane saying, I hope it's caught up by then, thinking people won't have units and docks caught up by May. Taki has a few delays. He's cramming to hit the end of March deadline. End of March would be awesome if all this was out. But yeah, there's interesting reading like the interview that Taki had talking about that he just wanted it to be perfect. He could have put it out a lot easier and a lot like crappier earlier, but he just wanted it to be good and was testing all these extra analog inputs and things to make sure they were like perfect, that maybe nobody would notice, but he would. So like, I'm super happy with what it's doing right now. That's really impressive, and just knowing that he like took the time on that it really makes me feel better about this, and I've never really felt bad about it. It just makes me even more excited for it. Yeah, Saturn gameplay. PS4 controllers have odd pairing. Marisume says, I watched your last video. I remember that you got Samba wrong. That's Microsoft's network. Yes. It's Microsoft network sharing. I use it to drag and drop files wirelessly to my TrimUI Smart Pro handheld. Okay, that makes sense. When I was trying to write down, like, here's useful MiSTer stuff that maybe I've been getting wrong in the past, I remember listening to that and then immediately forgetting it. But that's the nice file sharing that's basically easier than like a FTP into it that you can get set up, and just it shows up in your file system as like a network attached drive kind of thing from what I saw. But yeah, correct me if I'm wrong on that. Let's see. Marisume says, I thought SuperStation pairing was one of the console buttons down for a few seconds. You know, you may be right, because there was that slip of paper that came with it. Yeah. This thing that came with it, and it says, it doesn't really say anything about it. Talks about power, HDMI, ships with the BIOS. That's open. PS1 controllers, all that, additional Snac. So it might be on the QR code on the site that it talks about it. But yeah, I think you are right that there's something mentioned about like holding down. I'm holding down the menu button right now. Yep. If you hold down menu button, it pulls up and starts searching for Bluetooth. That's really nice. With all these things, I really want honestly, going for the PS1 stuff, I want a paper manual in the box that shows those things. That's really nice, but I would never have remembered that. So thank you for mentioning it, but I did not know that if you hold the menu button, which is this button, not the power, you hold it down long enough, it will pull up the Bluetooth pairing. Nice shortcut. I had no memory of that. Marisume is just, trying to explain this to me when I wasn't paying attention. It's either already in it, the Bluetooth pairing, or it will be, but I've seen the dev video. I think you hold the left button on the SuperStation One for a few seconds to enable Bluetooth pairing. Yep. Fallen Rascal, what type of tea are you making? Is this like a sleepy time tea, or are you getting caffeinated? I have a ginger tea and an unsweet tea next to me. And I usually drink like black tea all day long. Looks like it's running nicely. Marisume says, yes, the Samba is kind of like a NAS. And then Lane J says the QR code should link to the site. Yeah, this will not get picked up by the camera because it's tiny. You know what it will get picked up by? The top down. There you go. If anybody wants that, I will also put this link in there because in the description, because all this does, wow, I can't hold that steady. It takes you to the site where it basically has a link to the Discord. It talks about Wave shipping and all the status there. Oh, don't zoom out to my, well, you already see MemoryCard, so I guess who cares? And then Marmasume says, yeah, at least it's confirmed that holding this menu button down pulls over to that. Okay. I think we've tested everything besides the CRTs. So let's test the CRTs now. Okay. So if I can pull up this menu. Okay. I don't have a good way to point at this and be on mic at the exact same time because my mic's far away from here. But what we have, the top left computer monitor, that is a VGA monitor. But it only accepts, what is it, like 30 hertz signals? It only accepts 480 and above, I think. Is that 30 hertz? So it only accepts that. So I cannot do a VGA to that. And if I do modify some of the MiSTer files so that it can scan double or line double up to 480, it will not output on any of these other ones that need a lower hertz signal or whatever. So the Samsung TV at the bottom is just an old CRT that has a bunch of old connections on it. So I have that old Samsung hooked up component. The component input, this might be an any file thing that I need to fix up on here. But the problem with component that I'm getting right now is it's showing up as very pink, and I do not have the chords mixed up. It's just showing up as pink, and so I can't really do anything else with that. Let me pull up a. You know what? Let me tap something to it. Okay, so that's going to boot up a game to play on here. So the Samsung at the bottom, component input into that. The RCA TV in the middle top, yes, that one there. So that one is just an old CRT display, and I've got S-Video coming out of the SuperStation One and going to that. The VGA monitor on the, right here, this one is hooked up with a HDMI to VGA adapter because that is a newer computer to monitor. So it's displaying out at like, I don't know, maybe it's 720p or whatever that is. It's some weird one there. And then this one in the bottom is the HD CRT, and I've got that one just doing composite into the front. So I currently have component out of the SuperStation One, and I guess I could zoom this down a little bit. You can kind of see the SuperStation One. It's dark down there. But I currently have the SuperStation One hooked up into HDMI to a VGA adapter for the computer monitor top left. I have S-Video out to the RCA monitor top middle. I have composite out to the big HD CRT on the right. I have component out to the Samsung in the bottom. And it outputs all those at the same time. The only cords I don't have are a VGA signal to get it out there. Because I don't have actually I do have a monitor that supports it. Give me a second, let me plug in another monitor. Okay, now we have an old Dell monitor that also has Megaman running, and that's straight VGA. So now the only input or only output from the SuperStation One I am not reading outputting from is the DIN 10 port, which as far as has been mentioned in here, the DIN 10, I guess, was basically what the Saturn was using, which is odd to me because I have a Saturn adapter that goes to component, but it didn't seem to be the right pin formation. So I don't know if that's a different DIN 10 port or something. But that would supposedly, someone mentioned taking that to get SCART out. So that's the only thing I don't have hooked up. But yeah, this is 3, 4, 5 TVs all hooked up into this one input. And this is the thing that blows me away compared to the multi-system, compared to the MiSTer Pi or anything like that, is I cannot do that many outputs before. Why you would need to do this, I have absolutely no idea. The one thing I can think of is it'd be very cool because I could do HDMI out to record gameplay footage or stream gameplay or anything at like a super crisp 1080p, whatever. I could do even HDMI into my RetroTink and upscale that to 4K, not putting any of the pressure on the MiSTer Pi or the SuperStation One at all, and do it that way. Here, we'll start the game so we can show gameplay coming through it. So I could do that, and then I could also be playing on a CRT with the lowest lag possible. So I could play in like my most ideal environment and then go through and stream it out in a super high-res crisp thing, anything like that. Yeah. Let's see. Also, Marsume, my Saturn is S video. If it's SCART, that always confused me. I know people love SCART, but I never figured out how to use those cords myself. Yeah, I haven't messed with SCART much. The thing you'll still notice, the pink on this component. I tried messing with the other INI files or INI files that were on the SuperStation to see if I could change one of those, because there are those settings in there that it says like RGB or RGSB and some different things in there, but I couldn't get any of them to change it. But yeah, you can, again, like, this isn't the best viewing environment because I've tried to mess with some of the ISO on this to make sure you can see without too many lines and everything. But if I go too high on the ISO, you're going to get, I guess I could go auto. That doesn't really change anything, but yeah. I'm just trying to get them all generally in here. But yeah, this is Megaman 2 running on CRTs at the same time as it's being outputted in HDMI to all different monitor types, and does it all live. Also, I'm not good at Megaman, so like don't judge on any of this, but I'm just super impressed about what this can do. It really seems nice for streaming out footage or capturing footage, because you could play with super low lag. You could even play, like, I wonder if something like this would be used by like speed runners. I guess a capture card would do that too, but like you could play on the monitor you prefer and then output it somewhere else and like have all those things there. You could play on a small screen, but then have it displayed out for like people viewing a Smash Brothers tournament for N64. Y'all could play on the small CRT that's really quick, but then it could be viewed out by somebody else. Like, are these real uses? Probably not. But it's very cool to see these options in here. And I'm just amazed that it can do this. I truly thought there's no way those all output at the same time, because why would they need to? It seemed like it would be like a one or another situation. And also with the MiSTer multi-system I have, you can do VGA to component or composite, and there are adapters to do that, but it's kind of a pain to do. I've had trouble getting it to like correctly sync on green and having to line double it to get it on displays and things like that. And that is still something you need to do. I haven't gotten it line doubled to display on that computer monitor in the top left, because when I do, it stops working on the CRTs because it's at what, 30 or 45 hertz instead of the old 15. So like those are things you still have to keep in mind. I would love for the menu that Taki's working on to make that even easier to do. But right now, this is so easy to just plug a bunch of stuff in. And it's amazing that you have all these analog and digital outputs that you can do at exactly the same time. Will I be tearing down this video wall seconds after I'm done streaming to put it all back and never do this again? Probably, but I feel like this, I was just so impressed last night when I set this up, just as a demonstration of was this even possible. And it's cool that this is not even all the outputs. I still am missing one output that could be even crazier, but I need to find a SCART SCART TV somewhere in America to be able to hook it up, or just an adapter, I guess. But yeah, there's that. Somebody did ask for a Saturn, so let me go scan my Yoshi amiibo to get Panzer Dragoon to pop up. And also just how quick everything changes, very impressive to me. It also just shows the like the speed of CRTs at picking up signal changes, that's just immediate. And then these LCD panels and everything, that Dell in the corner, it doesn't even know what's happening when it changes these inputs, and it takes forever for it to for it to change. Okay. On it fully, that Dell just still has not caught up to that we're playing something. Let's do a normal game. We'll do the Saturn, and then I will hook up the Guncon next and show that. I don't know what that looks like with this many TVs, but we'll see how it works with that. And this, I have it all set up as the default stuff. So sometimes you can go into the settings, and there are options of like aspect ratio, some different things in there, composite blend, Sometimes there are options for that's the integer scaling, but typically when I've seen it, I can actually play this for a second. When I've seen the settings to do the frame or line doubling to get like 240p out to 480 onto modern TVs that typically don't support 240p. That's normally an INI setting that you have to do. So you have to go in there and you have to set it. And typically you wouldn't want to modify the default MiSTer thing that when you turn it on the first time, it'll display out in a resolution too low for most TVs to see. So you'd want to put it into like an alternate one. These would all be things that I'd love for the menu to actually address and just make it simpler to say, hey, for this specific thing, just like line double everything. And it's just a menu option I click on and off. Because even though I know that that setting exists, what I never remember is which of the INI files I set it to. And maybe I named them badly, but they also do more than just line double. Some of them line double and say I lock the output at 240p or I lock it at 720p for this because I don't want to tax the MiSTer with having to handle the upscale. I want to do it differently. Or I enable the like DV1 output that goes to the RetroTink. And that's a really cool setting because you plug in HDMI from the MiSTer to the RetroTink and it will go through and basically auto detect, oh, you're in an NES core. I'll change it to the profile on the RetroTink 4K that is for the NES core, so it looks like perfect. Like those things are super cool to see, and it only displays 4 NE files in that main menu at the top. So it's kind of a trouble to get to, slightly annoying from my experience, but I may just be doing it wrong. I may not have the right setup to handle it. And then I forget that enemies are all around me in this game, so that's probably why I'm still getting attacked. But yeah, so here's a Saturn core running on multiple things. And this Dell, I don't know if it's too low resolution, but this Dell has not caught up with displaying this out. It may be too low. Let's see. Did anybody else ask for RGB SCAR? They're all talking about S video component HDMI. Yeah, Fallen Rascal says this seems built for streaming. Marsume SCART is apparently true RGB, so a lot of modders and projects use it instead of component. Yeah, the MiSTer Multisystem has a SCART out, but I just send it straight into the RetroTink, and it is preferred for that from what I've seen of just having like a really good output to it. But I don't have any monitors that have that built in. And yeah, the open source scan converter project has a bunch of RGB SCART stuff connected. Oh, Marsume says the top center TV seems to be your fastest screen that updates to my eyes. That's the one that's S video, and that was the TV that was like the big upgrade TV for my family growing up. And luckily, I convinced them to keep it around. Like we would all gather around this really tiny TV, but the true flat, the TV that was flat but also CRT was like mind blowing at the time. But I've never hooked S video up to this TV before, and it does look really, really good. And I thought this was kind of a bargain basement TV, or like probably not super top of the line because it was just one my family had gotten at a local store that seemed nice-ish. But the S video out of this looks really, really good, and I'm super impressed because it only has composite input or S video, and the S video is like worlds better than anything else. Let's see. Fallen Rascal says it would be amazing for it to auto change to supported res and then allow you to change live to get exactly where you want if connected to HDMI or CRT. Yeah, just having a simple menu that says, here's the resolution I want you to run the games at, and here's what I want you to output at would be really, really cool. And again, with most things, MiSTer, like you can do that. You can set up an INI file that says, here's what I want you to scale to, here's what I want you to frame down. Do I want you to output the real resolution of that console and apply nothing to it? Do I want you to try to upscale any? Like it has all those options. It's just you dive into a file that you have to edit on a text editor, or you've got to go through and set it up on the MiSTer, but then you want to save it as like a new file, and then you can hit like some hotkeys as the MiSTer starts up to select them. But it's just like, I feel like a lot of these I have to have like a notepad open to remember all the different shortcuts and things to do, and just having it like built in a console menu would be so nice to have for me at the very least. I would love to see that. Okay. The other thing we talked about was Guncon. So let me switch over to a PlayStation Core is plugged in.
and I have it plugged into the CON port on the side. You can see right down here, a little yellow port sticking out of the side. And that is what's connected and supposedly the CON port. So we'll see if that works. And I want to boot up. Let's see. Like, will the Guncon have issues with so many screens that it's trying to lock onto? We'll find out. Has multi-screen Guncon ever been attempted? Hannah, we have these TVs. CRTs, when I find them, I get them. And this is like the wonderful world you live in, to have access to all these at a moment's notice. I bet you're so glad. What would this be? Okay, this would be other, and then I have point blank. Okay, yeah. And let's see. I'm gonna try to use the RCA one in the middle and see how that works with this. And hopefully the SCART is, or not SCART, the Snac adapter is all detected and we're not having any issues with connecting to this stuff. I'm also getting a lot of reflection off that front one, but I think that's my, what is that? This thing? Let's see. Turn this off. Get a better reflection there. Okay, at least the A and B buttons on the side are working. Okay. Look at that. Okay. I don't know why I hit load. I didn't save anything for this. Okay. Okay. Yeah, we'll do beginner. This, I think I also played this in the last stream as well, but I absolutely loved Point Blank. And there was one arcade in the area that had this game, and I absolutely loved it. And I had no idea it was on PlayStation. Yep, it all works. And now I need to get a second Guncon so I can play 2-player on this. This is really cool. Being able to use like original hardware like this, hook up to CRTs. I could also, I'm doing this silly screen show off right now, but being able to stream this and not have to like hook other stuff up, just being able to have, I could have one console with an HDMI out and a S video out and get this hooked up and play on the screen I want to play on, but also record at like the crispest I want to. It sounds like this so awesome. Also, you might hear some squeaks because my dog has started playing with a toy behind me. But okay, let me check to make sure nobody else. Is there anything y'all want to see on the CRTs before I move back to just like
playing some games and clicking through some more cores real quick. Marsume says, I miss my old CRT TV. It had a component cable input and a widescreen mode to add black bars on the TV side so you could get pitch, black bezels. I miss it. Yeah, this HD CRT, it puts bezels on the side, but they're gray. And I truly don't understand who wanted that. I don't know what that adds. That's distracting from any media playing on it. Wait, multi-TV gun conning. It works. Surprisingly, it works. Let's see. Fallen Rascal says this is why analog focus on one core at a time. I guess it takes a lot of the guesswork out. Yeah, I mean, that is kind of the thing. Is like the analog is really simple to use, and sometimes too simple because they don't give you too many options. But like plugging in a cartridge into my analog pocket and booting it is so simple. I hardly have to fuss with anything. Doing the same on the analog 3D, so simple. I hardly have to do anything. And then the second I want to do more stuff, it's like, it's kind of locked down. The Pocket at least has Open FPGA, so you can do some stuff on there. And that gets more MiSTer-like in that I need to like dive into some menus and mess with some more stuff. But it is really, let's just do that. There's a quest mode in here? Oh my gosh. I need to play more of this. Getting those settings dialed in, I'm sure takes a lot of work and like UI design to just narrow down what are people going to want to do? How do we make that simple and like not troublesome? Or even just things of like, hey, if you turn this on, what should be the default user experience? I've already seen several comments talking about like, I turned this on and I don't know what to do. Where's the UI I was shown in these videos and stuff? So I can't wait to see that line up. And I'm not actively playing this because I'm looking at comments, so it's going to fail me out of all these things. But Fallen Rascal says, it's storing the CRTs. They are huge and heavy. Yes, I normally have 2 in this room. I have one near my desk, and then I have a couple of these strewn about. Probably too many. Hannah's probably right. There's probably too many, but like when would I get to do this setup? This is unique, right? This is what the people want. This one single stream where I've never used all of these in conjunction before. The SuperStation One allows this type of power. That's a selling point. And again, I need one more TV to use the last input because I've not truly tested this system until I have a TV for every single input, right? I need to get an adapter. Yeah, y'all are talking about the Magic 5 screen point blank. Which TV are you aiming at? Hobbs Gobbling, I was aiming at the RCA one here. And I don't know if we can go back to the like menu here. But like when I aim specifically at that one, it all seems to like connect and be working like really well. I honestly don't even know what happens if I aim at the other ones. I wonder if I wonder if it only works for the composite. Well, that wouldn't make sense either. I honestly don't know why that one works and the others don't. My best guess would be that the HD CRT that light guns do not work with. We know that from last time. The Samsung one won't work because it's LCD. The little Dell won't work because it's LCD. The gateway is getting HDMI and then going to VGA, so I'm assuming something with the signal is also not working on that. So the only one getting a true analog signal that it's meant to handle is the RCA that's getting S video to S video. Everything else is doing something funky with it, so I assume that's why only that one doesn't work. Fallen Rascal says, this one single stream has convinced me this product is awesome, even better than I was expecting. Honestly, I'm surprised. When I was setting this up last night, I was like, this is actually extremely cool. and the Zaparoo thing, which again I've had before and never played with. And these TVs, so cool. I will never set this up again, but it is really, really cool. And I'm just so impressed at it all. Even though there are things like I cannot get the memory cards to work a lot of the times, and only one memory card's worked. The settings are hard to dial in, but like even with the pains of just MiSTer and trying to get to grips on understanding it and troubleshooting and stuff, having this work out of the box is already a huge step, because this was already really complicated on the plain MiSTer, and SuperStation One just having all these inputs, populating analog and digital video signals all at the same time, super impressive. Let's see, Cocoon Master says the same thing. Well, I'm glad this has been convincing. Let's see, Fallen Rascal wants to see Super Nintendo, Mario All-Stars, #1 game ever made. And Wizards sold that to me. Okay, let's switch over. Yeah, I remember renting that movie a lot, and it was very fun. And I'm not sure that I knew... I don't think I knew at the time how much of that movie was real and or fake. Like, if that was a real televised thing that happened or what. I just remember being amazed. And this would be a super... Do I not have it loaded on here, Super Mario All-Stars? Oh no. I know I have Super Mario World. I don't think I have All-Stars on here. Oh, that's... Unless it got thrown down here? Nope. Or if it's sorted under M... Nope, not that, not that. Nope, that's my bad. I do not have that ready on here. But Mario RPG and this Super Mario World are on here. One other thing that I had with the MiSTer project was the MiSTer Laggy, and there is a script built in to this that has it set up. The only problem is the MiSTer Laggy, which is a tiny little like sensor that detects light, and you hold it to your screen, and it will go into the user port or Snac port of your console. And so you can hold it to your screen and you can see how much input lag you're doing. I had tested it on that gateway, this top left one, to see how much lag was introduced. And that's when I found out that, oh, that computer monitor can output at higher resolutions, but if I send it down to like a lower res, it gets faster response time at doing like a 240p or 480p or something like that. I guess 480p would be actually the lowest this one can go. I died immediately because I'm talking. But that is really interesting, just to like, I don't know, it feels like a little bit of a like I can't enjoy my games anymore because I'm just interested in how low the response time is. But it is very cool to see how laggy your screens are and what different modes. Like, it's also the thing that pointed out, the thing I probably should have already known, is that if I take a 4K panel and I output a low resolution on it, typically that has a low response time because it has to do some extra processing to get it like down resolution. I always thought like, oh, surely going down wouldn't bother you, but it does, because it takes that lower signal and then it tries to force it onto its 4K panel, and then that introduces some lag. So like the MiSTer Laggy is very interesting. It's also like a good tool too, but I feel like sometimes I'm getting up in my own head of like, well, I can't play this, the lag's too bad. And it's like, well, if you played it for more than a second, you'd probably get used to the lag and be fine. But it is just cool. You have all those options that you can be as lag free as you want on the MiSTer with all the Snac adapters, and use MiSTer Laggy to dial stuff in and do all of that. Let's see. Fallen Rascal, I love my analog 3D, fantastic grape. This is next on my list. Yeah, other than that, I wish the analog 3D supported more things. Like, I wish it had Open FPGA. I wish it had more of the features that were advertised like at launch. And the things that they had talked about, like looking into of like save states and maybe that being a possibility, like I would love to see all that in there. Out of the box, though, it will be the thing when friends come over and want to play N64. I will use it for that, and I'm very excited by that. And I don't have enough MiSTer adapters to do 4-player on the N64 controller with N64 Core with Snac controllers right now. God, I'm awful right now at this game. So like that is cool. Did I probably spend too much money on something that people would have been fine with Bluetooth controllers plugged into even just my Nintendo Switch and playing or anything? Maybe, but I think it's cool, and I know that my friends are getting a great experience with like overclock cores and stuff, and it's cool to see the MiSTer adding overclock cores as well. That will improve the experience for people playing on here. It's just, I would love some of the stuff Analog's building to be like contributed back to the community and be like having that open source would be so cool. That's why I'm so excited by what Taki's doing on here, because having that menu to where anyone with a MiSTer could load it up on theirs and get it set up is so cool. And that will be, I feel like, helpful to so many people who want to get into this. Let's see. Murasume says, I wonder what happened to those projects that were supposed to make Guncon's work on HDMI TVs. Interesting. I had seen like the RetroTink has some settings to add like some tracking pixels and stuff to some overlays and make things work, but I always thought those were for like the Shinden light guns. I didn't know people were working on it with the Guncon stuff. That'd be interesting. I was seeing on, I think, Lou's Retro Source that he was talking about the Guncon 3 can work on some HD TVs through the MiSTer, and that there is some way to get that working. It was a slightly older video, maybe like a year or so ago. So I don't know if that's what you're referring to, but it did make me think I should probably get a Guncon 3 because I'd like to test that. Let's see. Oh, Incognito Man, good to see you. Thank you for all the troubleshooting help. It's been awesome. And said, oh, I really do wish I could help with the memory card. I really don't know what is causing it. Yeah, I did earlier. I showed that, I guess we can switch back to it real quick. I have one single memory card that works. So I can go to console and PSX and let me plug it in. This one cheap memory card is the only one I can get to work. And so it seemingly has been detected most of the time, even without me having to reset the entire console, which I heard some people recommending of like, maybe you need to reset the whole thing and then get it to detect it. Oh, I still got the Guncon plugged in. Will it work for this? Not really. Let me switch controllers real quick. And it's not showing up now. I booted up Croc earlier, and it did show the save files from this memory card, but this is the only one I've gotten to reliably or semi-reliably show up with the memory card. So I don't know, but I have so many other ways to save games still through the MiSTer Core. So I am fine waiting for any updates that will maybe be made in the future to get that to work, or maybe I, again, did some setting wrong. It's not showing up. It showed up in Croc, so it has worked. It has worked somewhat before. Let me see if I go back to cold reboot and then use the Zaparoo to go through. And my party trick with Croc failed me. I couldn't get it to line up. But there we go. Zaparoo is launching it. We'll see if it boots up and sees the port in there. But yeah, this
The memory card is the only thing that has been the most troublesome, but there are so many ways around it that it really does not impact me that much. I'm just excited to see it just work out of the box so people don't have to troubleshoot and we don't get people booting theirs up and saying the snack ports don't work or this memory card doesn't work, that it'll all just be easy out of the box. But Fallen Rascal, it's still worth it even with the extra steps. Fantastic progress, fantastic product regardless. I agree. I'm extremely happy with it. And my dog is barking at the humanoid croc creature right now. Let's see, Fallen Rascal. That's cool. Mario World is the second best game. Okay. Marisume can't play this game. Lag is too bad. Proceeds to play Majora's Mask at 20 FPS. Yes, I worry that knowing all this stuff. Yeah, and it doesn't see the memory card. Earlier in this same video, the memory cards were red. Truly no idea why it changes sometimes. Snack port real, but it's not that big of a deal for me. Morisume actually used AI and Deep Agent to research, and me and the AI determined the SuperStation One is probably the best out of the box deal. I mean, looking at the prices, I was writing down all the prices earlier, and it was like, yeah, it is still one of the cheapest out there, and that's even counting ones that were like even the Mr. Pi without all of its add-ons and inputs and stuff is pretty close in price to this, that it's like, well, yeah, I would pay the couple, $20, $50, whatever extra to get all this functionality of the box. Is really nice. Let's see. Taziki deck. I'm patiently waiting for my SS1. I'll be waiting a bit though, since it won't be shipped till the dock is out. Oh, yeah, you waited. I split mine up the second I had the opportunity because I just really wanted to try it. But having the snack port, having the disk drive all with the dock does seem like that's perfect. I am more than happy to have the half complete console right now. Half complete. I am happy to have a complete MiSTer with some of the awesome functionality that the dock will bring right now and get to play with it. But yeah, I think with the dock, it's going to be just really incredible. And I think at that point, I don't know what else you would get that would be any better unless you wanted to read like real cartridges from it. But I'm sure people will figure out a way to do that in the future and have that as a product in here. And then Fallen Rascal, yeah, defo would love Analog to combine all their systems into one. Yep. But I also, as capitalistic as it is, I do understand why you would probably want to make one for each console. From a money perspective, I also do get it requires a lot of accessories for me to get 4-player N64 on the SuperStation One or any MiSTer I have. So having just like 4 ports in there and an easy setup, I do think like obviously a lot of work went into it. The core is really nice, and although there are some testing showing that it's not as accurate as the claims are and everything, I've had a great time with it. Their marketing is just like a little or a lot overblown a lot of times. But it's still a really cool console. It's just sad that like I thought the Analog Pocket was going to lead to them being more open with their stuff and like, hey, this is mainly suited towards the N64, but here's these extra options. This is mainly suited towards the Game Boy, but here's these other options. And I like that Taki has done that with the PlayStation. It's mainly suited for the PlayStation. Here's all these other normal MiSTer options that you can do. Let's see. Laned J, kind of hilarious to see a MiSTer menu background with beam simulation running on the CRT. Yeah, it's really making it feel at home. That's a pattern it is used to displaying. Incognito Man, yeah, I'm still waiting on mine, but it's one of the things I'm going to try to figure out once I get it. Yeah, as I've mentioned like several times in here, and I will include links to it, if anyone is getting a SuperStation One, you should definitely get into Taki's Discord on it, because people like Incognito Man and Zaparoo have been really, really helpful on troubleshooting not only the questions and issues I've had, but a lot of people and getting them set up.
So that's a really cool community to just get help. Or as I've seen a lot of, and while I was mainly in there in the beginning, was people just saying, "Oh, I can't wait to get mine. It looks so cool. I wonder when it'll get here. Here's my status updates," which is the whole reason I joined, was to look at everybody and look at people saying like, "I ordered mine at this millisecond and my shipping status is this," and we can all band together to hope it gets there really fast. Um, let's see. Fallen Rascal, this is real cheap compared to what else is out there. Yes, it even compared to the analog, which does have some nice features. And like that is one thing, the MiSTer will not, as far as I'm aware, output to 4K. And if it does, like 1080p seems to be its like default output, and you can change it to other ththings. But it does, the more it has to do that, the more work it has to do. And it does introduce some lag because it is having to upscale that image to 1080p from what the FPGA core is used to putting out at 240p, 480p, whatever. So that's what's cool about hooking it up to like the RetroTink and scaling it all the way to 4K from the like most base input that it can do. So that's really cool in the analog 3D, but it's just so sad that it's so locked down. Fallen Rascal, and it's even accounting shipping and tax to the UK. Yeah, I was surprised at how low it was to ship to the US. Like it was still expensive, but it was not like I thought I'd have to pay for the price of this twice or something crazy like that. Um, Taziki deck, I wasn't even aware we could split the order. I have paid attention in the Discord. Yeah, I feel like I managed to catch it just in time, but even when I saw it, it was like, oh no, I don't know if I've missed my chance, but they were able to do it. All the support's been really super helpful and everything. But yeah, there have been a few channels you've had to like really be paying attention to because it's moved fast, but everyone's been very helpful, and Discord's been, it's been a nice group in there. Let's see. Agent X Rifle, hey, long time no see. Yeah, good to see you. I have a real, actual long form video that I am 75% through that I keep getting distracted by things like this and work and life. But thank you for continuing to stick around, even though I've been sporadic in what all I've been putting up here. Agent X Rifle, I got to update my A3D and controllers. They just got an update. Really hoping we get save states one day on it. How is the SuperStation? I had to cancel my pre-order because money. Yes, I honestly, that's what I was gonna do last week, was stream the analog 3D, because that new update has the 480 override to where it will output interlaced images. It'll bypass the like output of the N64 and actually put out the full progressive output instead of going through whatever N64 funkiness happens where it has a limitation of outputting interlaced. And that has seemed to work. I know they said it's like beta and still kind of being tested, but that has worked extremely well. Like the Star Wars Rogue Squadron and stuff like that that had the issues with bad interlacing and Turok and everything, they just look super solid. I noticed some interesting things like the Rogue Squadron menu. Actually, the Rogue Squadron menu, you still see some like strange like weave artifacts and things like that, but that seemed to just be a limitation of like the menu. Like the actual gameplay looks great. So that's a really cool, like that, and the overclock modes are really cool that they are doing like custom stuff in there. It's not like they just recreated a MiSTer core entirely and then charged you more for it. Like they're putting work in to do some unique things. I would love for all of that to come to MiSTer as well, but really cool. And I'm excited to see what they add next. I just wish, as always, I wish they would share something. I wish they would say anything about what they're working on, but I guess getting that update is cool enough, and we got it kind of quick, but it would have been cool to say, we're looking into that. And the only way I saw them saying that they were looking into it was in other YouTube people's videos talking about it, saying they had spoke with them, but I didn't hear a word out of Analog themselves ever sharing that information with the public. So just strange, but still really like it. It's just like oh, I wish some of this was handled better. And your question about the SuperStation One, it seems really, really cool. I still love hooking my cartridges up to the analog 3D, and so I am super excited for the dock to put discs into this and have it read off of that. That seems extremely cool to me. And that's when it'll feel like really complete. I'm also excited for the menu and stuff. So I guess much more communicative, much more clear on like where things are at with the SuperStation. But in a similar way of like the analog 3D, that there are like, yeah, I'd love to see these updates and things. But honestly, that's just how I feel about most hardware and things, that I'm like, this is really cool. Oh, it'd be cool if they add this. Like, I don't know if that's bad that I'm always wishing for like something extra. But I just really like the hardware and software and everything, and I'm very excited to see whatever cool features they add. Out of the box, the SuperStation One is a great MiSTer with amazing analog output capabilities, as can be seen here. And then hopefully it has some cool extra features in the future, and the dock works really well, and like we get a really fully functional, fully open MiSTer that has just like really nice hardware associated with it. Fallen Rascal, yeah, the 480i to P transition seems to be fixed in gameplay on A3D. Tasiki Deck is waiting on the M64. Agent X Rifle, I really wanted to play the Crash games and Future Cop LAPD. The multiplayer mode is great and works with one player versus CPU. I've never heard of them. Interesting. I'll have to check that out. And yeah, I've never played through the Crash games, so I'm also looking forward to play through that, and Crash Team Racing. I would love for this to be my place where I play PlayStation games, and it seems like it probably will, mainly just because it's analog outputs that I can play on a CRT and then record gameplay in HDMI and everything. It seems like it'll be where I'm playing this stuff, but like the analog 3D, I feel like that immediately replaced my N64 from most cases. And this one, once the dock comes in, I think it will be that for sure. Let's see. Fallen Rascal. PAL games have issues on the A3D in 60 hertz, though. Only downside or shame is that I'm in a PAL region, so games are slow around 17.5%. Ah, okay. Yeah, I didn't know how like all the PAL stuff was affected, because that was the generations where they actually everything ran slower, right? So that does some interesting stuff when it's going to either modern TVs, or I assume that is no longer an issue, right? That was just old consoles that had the different PAL timings for everything that make games run slower. I don't know a ton about it. I know when I've been picking up games from other countries, I'm like, oh, I can't do this one because this will run slower on my hardware and everything. It'd be cool for them to update that to where it can run things, but I don't know if that's hard coded on the cart or how that works. Like, could they make it so you get the NTSC timings if you're on uh um if you're on a different setting, or would that be like actually hard coded on the cart and something hard to do? That would be interesting to know. Oh, okay. Lane J801 says, just for clarity, the SuperStation caps out at 1440p, which is perfectly fine. Yeah, that's great. Okay, I didn't know. I thought it capped out at 1080p. Yeah, that's more than fine for most stuff. I just like the added option of that I can output at the absolute accurate resolution and then use the 4K to upscale it and apply scanlines and do that. Like, it's just a bunch of cool functionality in it that you can kind of do whatever you want. You can do it on CRTs. Getting up to 1440p is actually really impressive for this. And that also gets even closer to like the analog 3D's 4K output. 1440p is pretty close to what most of the monitors are that I run, and like I don't notice the difference most of the time. It's still like over 1080p, which always looks really nice and feels nice. So that's really cool. And thank you for correcting me there. Agent X Rifle with the M64 coming out, I plan on grabbing a controller from them to see if it's any good. Glad to see all these options. Yeah, more FPGA stuff, always good to see. And Fallen Rascal says they need to grab USA/NTSC games, which are expensive here. The analog 3Ds does not magically make PAL games run at the different timings. That's sad. Agent X Rifle, oh, if you do play Future Cop LAPD and do the multiplayer mode against Sky Captain, he has so many classic voice lines. You better make a video with it, come to Canada, and we can play it together. Future Cop LAPD. I don't even know. Like, this doesn't even bring a cover art to mind. I have no memory of this. I will have to check it out. And then Fallen Rascal said, yes, the PAL timing was on old consoles. Not with 64 games, SNES games, and Genesis. Yes, that those have the different timings. Cocoon Master Future Cop LAPD was really fun. It was on a demo I used to have. I didn't even know. Oh, sorry, we are on PlayStation. Never mind. I was in the 64 mindset. They had plenty of demos on there. I would love to just do a video just checking out old demo discs. I always love watching those when Giant Bomb does them, and I had so many demo discs for the original Xbox growing up that I love checking out demos and seeing the old videos and stuff. So I would love to just get the full PlayStation Magazine collection of demos and run through those to see what old relics are on there. Let's see. Agent X Rifle had a demo for it on iMac in 1999 and played so much multiplayer with friends on one keyboard. I will have to check out this game after this. It's such a good game, and the demo had so much replayability. I do remember playing so many multiplayer demos for stuff, just like fully getting my money's worth, which my money's worth was $0 and or maybe like $5 to $10 for the magazine it came bundled with. I remember playing the Call of Duty demo on PC for a lot of time. I don't even remember if that was against bots or if that let you play online, but Cocoon Master, random question. Have you ever tried using scanlines on your CRTs? Did the PVM and other modes look weird, or do you use them in clean mode? I haven't tried turning it on for CRTs. I don't know that it will show in the video very well, but those are all preloaded, and so you can go into video processing and do it from a file, and then CRT simulation. Let's do core specific maybe. Is there a PSX one? We'll do N64 with a tiny blur. And I can't see. I can't see this applying to. It looks like maybe some blur is applied. But it doesn't really, I can't really tell. Oh, you can kind of tell it in the top left. It'll get darker as I kind of go through options. It's really hard to see. But it is applying stuff on here. The only thing I don't see it really applying anything to is, well, there we go. It is applying it some to the CRT in the top middle. But honestly, it's kind of hard to tell on here and not just through the like clean HDMI output. Especially with some of these already having some scan lines from that, like you can see the individual little gaps normally, so it's a little strange. Agent Rifle. I miss days when demos were genuinely good. Yeah, there were so many that I got like a ton of playtime out of, and a lot did convince me to buy the game, but it was just really cool to check them out. I will say, like, the Steam Next Fest is truly the demos that I liked as a kid of like all those games, or like giving you a real meaty demo to try out the game, and I really enjoy that. It just, they're available for like 1 week and then they go away, so it's always hard to catch up with. Oh, sorry. Cocoon Master said that question earlier was for the A3D with applying the different scan lines. I have not. tried it on a CRT, hooking the analog 3D to a CRT, because I would have to like downscale it through the analog 3D and stuff. So I haven't tried any of that. Agent X Alpha, I only have a few PS1 games, all the Crash games, Ape Escape, GTA 2, Future Cop LAPD, but legit Future Cop is the best by far for the multiplayer mode. Oh my god, the praise on this. Yeah, the only one of those I've finished is Ape Escape, and I absolutely love Ape Escape. It's so much fun. Lane J, Shader Glass is cool on a CRT for watching YouTube with VHS tracking. Feels like watching old tutorials tapes. Yeah, I've heard so many good things about Shader Glass, but I have yet to check it out, so I will have to at some point. Plasma 2891, I'm playing in N64 on my PC, the emulator with the real controller, but it does not feel right. Keep looking at my CRT, so I said, screw it, I just ordered an N64 off eBay. Hey, it'll be really good. It'll be just like you remember it at that point. That has been my biggest thing, is like I never feel like the mappings for getting the only thing where I felt like a real N64 controller is working like it would on an N64 is with the MiSTer and the analog 3D and a real N64. But everything else, whenever I try to hook up like a USB N64 controller or something, it just never feels like it's mapped right. It feels like somehow something's lost in translation trying to get it to like D input or something like that to somehow take that control stick to a standard control stick like paradigm and then get it through USB. It just never feels right to me either. It'll hold me till the SuperStation One, says Plasma. Yeah, it definitely will. And then you can check out all the cool N64 stuff after that. Okay, let's see. It's about 3 hours, which is about how long my last one was, and my voice is getting hoarse here. So is there anything else that y'all would like to see? Anything else I can show off? I think I've shown off everything that I wanted to show as far as like interesting features on this, because I really wanted to show the Zaparoo, which I'm overjoyed about. I obviously wanted to show off the CRT wall here, the screen wall, not really many CRTs in there. I wanted to test the light gun again. I wanted to show that memory cards sometimes do work, which we have proof of it working one time and not the other. Is there anything else y'all want to see before I guess sign off and end the stream for now? Anything else I can show or demonstrate or anything? I feel a little weird with this because it is like you could do a lot of this stuff on the MiSTer, so I was trying to point out the things that are like truly unique to this, or at least like accessories that don't come with a normal MiSTer that are kind of built in. Okay, yeah, that's a good question. Cocoon Master says, so the SuperStation One doesn't come with games. I have to supply my own. It is not like a emulation handheld that you would order that just comes with a bunch of games. Shadily says it has 1,000 games on there and then has a bunch of stuff on there. So no, it does not come with that stuff. But what it does come with, let me plug it back into HDMI and I'll show you. I can kind of, well, I dropped a controller. You can kind of show this. The screen is, but there are over 70 homebrew games preloaded on here. So you can play through all of these. Some of them are like little demos, but like Good Boy Galaxy is a space dog based Metroidvania that I had backed on Kickstarter like years ago. And I think I'm still waiting on my GBA official cartridge because it does run on actual GBA and then they released it on other consoles. So that's like a full, fairly recent game, and they released the GBA game on here to supply. So you do get those 70 games. Some of them are tech demos, some of them are like the 480p test suite and things on there, but there are like a lot of little homebrew games that you can play in there, which is really cool to see. Your mileage is going to vary. Like you may want to look at that list, but let me get this hooked up HDMI real quick and I'll go through some of them just to show what that looks like. But that's what you get out of the box. Anything else, if you want to supply Mario to this, anything else, you will need to back up those games yourself to add them to it. The other thing, that's really useful for this is that if you get something that can back up, like I have the Retrode, and it can back up Super Nintendo games, Genesis games,
probably some others. And then I have like an adapter for it that backs up my N64 games. Does that. It even has like those work as N64 inputs if you want to play a game on it. I also have the like GB operator, and this lets me back up my Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance. And this is also kind of neat because the software has an emulator built into it, so you can like plug it in and launch the game straight from it, and like that stuff's kind of cool. But I use all those, and just like any CD drive will back up all the PS1 games you have in your collection. So that's how I add stuff to my MiSTer. But let me plug this in HDMI real quick and grab the cord, and I'll go through some of the homebrew games that are on here. Some of them would not load initially, seemingly, because I didn't have the BIOS set up for them, because those aren't included. There's like some third-party BIOS, but not the official ones. And it seems like they run better with the official BIOS added to this, which you have to add on your own. Okay. Back to the normal SuperStation One menu here. Let's see. And here's the homebrew games in here. Well, if I get this controller booted up. So there's this homebrew section, and all of these are populated with some homebrew games. So Game Boy, like the one I mentioned earlier, is did I put it in the wrong? Oh, sorry, GBA. I'm silly. Okay, Good Boy Galaxy is the one I mentioned. That's like a space dog Metroidvania, or search action game. And this one I had back just because it looks like a really cool GBA game, and I've not played through it yet. But this was one that it works in GBA emulators, so you can get like an actual ROM from them to play it. You can also get a cartridge, which I'm still waiting on, I believe. But it's just like a cool little platformer. So like this is a fairly recent one that later came to like Switch and other things where it's just running the Game Boy game in the background and stuff. So like this is a like serious. I paid money for this and waited a couple of years for it. If we go back to the menu and view some more on here. Fallen Rascal, Analog 3D, and Switch NSO controller are best for the N64. The filters look so good. I was really impressed. Like the Analog 3D filters, the Analog Pocket filters have been really impressive. I've also been very impressed with what's on the RetroTink 4K. How many filters have gotten added by like the community and doing everything in there. But those are the things that have like really impressed me, especially when it gets really high resolution and then has a filter. That stuff is crazy looking. And the NSO controller, I did hook it up just to make sure it worked on the new update, and it seemed to work really well. So that was impressive. But those NSO controllers are still like, what, one per account or something? That it's like, I wish Nintendo would let people buy those because having a modern, like Nintendo quality controller seems really nice, and a lot of people would want that. But Lane J, how far can you throw it? Honestly, it's chuckable. It's a small, like it feels like you're almost holding like maybe a frisbee size thing. I bet you could really chuck this thing. And the outside, it feels like it would shatter pretty easily. So I probably won't test it. Let's see what other homebrew we had in here. Super MIDI pack, I don't want it. What's Ink Venture? Fallen Angel says, I've seen enough. Amazing stream. Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in and, throwing out ideas and things to test. That's really, really awesome. I really appreciate it. Agent X rifle underhand, please. I could toss underhand, like into a pillow or maybe a couch. That would be fine. But I only have one screw holding it together because I wanted to show the inside of it today. So I'll maybe reattach everything. Lane J, do you have a projector? No, I don't. But I was getting served some like people talking about projectors today and saying they had bedroom projectors, and I was like, yeah, it'd be pretty cool. But no, I don't have a projector to do the forbidden fifth input on this SuperStation One yet, so I'm still lacking on the last analog input. Does it sync or flow? I would think it would sync pretty quickly because you get water into the controller ports and all the flaps on the side that have the analog inputs. I bet it's going down quick. Fallen Rascal, I don't just want this, I need this. Yeah, I feel you.
on one hand, I am very excited I got mine so quickly, but I more often than not have been on your side of like, people are getting this. Where is it? I really want to play it. So I hope you get yours soon. I really hope those ship out soon. And it seems like it's ramping up as far as production. Like I see more and more people talking about getting theirs. And so hopefully you get yours soon. Hopefully the docs follow shortly after that. Drop test in a bathtub. I just don't. I think these are the things I don't want to do though. Will it blend? I don't think it would fit in my blender. So, let's see. What other Game Boy Color games? Scale Lost. Do you have an original PS1 to compare side by side? If not, how about an NES cart compared? Oh, just the size of it? Yeah, I did show this. Ooh, okay, hold on. Okay, top down, it's very messy, but, oh, and I need to flip this. Okay, hold on. So I will make y'all sick for just a second. Give me one rotate, please. There you go. Let me get this reflex adapter out of the way. Let me try to clean some of this stuff up. I always start with a nice clean desk, and then throughout these streams, I pull every single accessory onto the table afterwards. Okay. Here's your original PlayStation 1, not PSONE, next to the SuperStation. So it is quite a bit smaller. If we do it like directly on top here, like that is really teeny. Here's a Genesis game for comparison. It's about 4 Genesis games side by side, or 2 top and bottom, maybe 1 on the side. Like, it's pretty small. Like, the compactness surprised me. Let me see. Here is a N64 next to it. Pretty small. Here's the NSO Virtual Boy next to it. This is pretty huge, bigger than I expected. Here's Super Nintendo Lord of the Rings next to it. You know, it's really just the height of a Super Nintendo. There. Let's see. Fallen Rascal says, yeah, those NSO controllers are never in stock. They're never in stock, and aren't you limited to 1 per account or something like that? Something so silly. Like, Nintendo seems to want money until they don't want my money, and I don't understand them. Landed J, thank you for entertaining my stupidity in a serious manner. You're welcome. Fallen Rascal, still need to convince the sensible half that this makes sense. Yeah. My sensible half joined into the chat and said, why do you have this many CRTs? So, probably not a great sign there. But I just need them. And I'm still looking out for a PVM, like a small PVM. Oh, that would be incredible to have. And I bet that would have a way for me to get a DIN 10 port out to it. Let me go back to this default view. Agent X Rifle, got to see it compared to with a PS1 ONE and a PS1 number. Yeah, I would still like to get a PSONE. And the other thing, oh, I'll show that. Okay, hold on. Let me get a connection. Let me read through this. Fallen Rascal looks about the same as the original PS1 Mini or PSONE. Yeah. Landed J says you should order a Linus Tech Tips banana for scale. Yeah, I have the here's a Linus Tech Tips screwdriver for scale. Does that help? But let me show you the other thing I wanted to show. So when I got the multi-system, one of the things I wanted to do was to 3D print a screen that would attach to it. I'd watched what's Ken making video on making a portable MiSTer, and I thought that was so cool. So when I originally got the not SuperStation, the MiSTer Pi, I had thought like, oh, what if I took that and tried to make the screen and connect everything to it? So I got this little screen, and it's tiny and it's not like a great screen, but what it does have is a full-size HDMI on the side, and I can plug this into goodbye capture card. I can plug this in, and it's just powered off USB, and seemingly, I don't know if I'm doing harm to my console by doing this, but the SuperStation One seems to pass through enough power to play games on it here. So now what I'm thinking, I'm not a very good 3D print designer at all, but you can power a full little monitor off the USB in here. So my other thought was, well, let me move this slide so you can actually see it. What if somebody makes, I'm not saying this is me, because again, I'm not good at 3D printing, but you could make a hinged mechanism like the PS1 so you could have this little screen next to it, and you could just plug this in and it would supply all its own power and get the screen connected in here. And that is very cool. I think this one was just a random one off Amazon. Does it say what type this is? It's literally just 5-inch touchscreen monitor B for Raspberry Pi. I'll see on Amazon if I can find what it is. It's this. But these things are like seemingly a dime a dozen. I think this is maybe one that was linked in the what Ken's making video where he was trying to make the portable MiSTer. So I might have he might have had a link to it. I'll put it in the description if I can find it. I think this thing's very cool. It comes with a way too chunky HDMI cable, but if I got a slim HDMI and then put it in a hinged thing, I just think it'd be so cool to have one that flips open and you can just set it down. But I'm also, I had gotten one of those GameCube screens back in the day. So having a tiny, not that great screen attached to a whole console is like incredible to me. That's my like end game with this stuff that I think that's very cool. And I was just impressed that it had enough USB pass through to do that. The multi-system had it as well, but I just didn't know if anything changed. And I'd also seen what's Ken making had a video with the multi-system 2, and he had plugged it into the fan header. He had stripped a USB C cable. Oh right, these cables are dangling down. He had stripped a USB cable and put it into the fan header, so that would do like 5 volts power into the monitor to be able to control it and everything like that. So I know Taki has talked about making a portable MiSTer that's like handheld, but having a little portable console that your friends could gather around, it seems cool. But yeah. Link to the LCD. Cut to our segue. What resolution is this screen? I don't know. Oh, it's 800 by 480. And supposedly it's a capacitive touchscreen. But yeah, I just got it for like project stuff, and then the most I've done with it is I've just plugged it into little consoles and been like, oh neat, it works. What if I design something to attach to these consoles and work with it? And then I don't ever do that, but I still think the idea is cool. Yeah. Okay, I think that's it, unless I see something come in the next couple minutes that's saying, please check this, please check this. Thanks everybody for watching. I'll cut away from this, but yeah. Oh, here you're seeing my camera out of the lens here. Yeah, thank you everybody for watching. This has been super fun. I love testing all this stuff, and like, thank you for the suggestions and everything in there. And yeah, thanks for sticking around for what, this is another 3-hour stream, but it's just been very exciting. If y'all have other stuff you'd like to see on here, again, I'm on the fence of like, the MiSTer could do this stuff, so is this worth showing off? But if you do have anything you want to see from either the SuperStation One or MiSTer or anything like that. These streams have been a fun way to, when I have just a couple hours and not maybe time to edit a whole video, to hop on and show stuff off. And I've just been really excited about these consoles. If absolutely nothing comes up between now and later, I do have a pre-order on the Game Bub, the little GBA handheld FPGA project. So like that's definitely something I'll show on one of these streams. But I've mainly been doing these just when something fun is out that I want to experiment with and like test out, and it seems worthwhile to show it out here. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for giving suggestions. If you have anything else or any other questions, send them in the chat, and I will try to add all the description for like the YouTubers I mentioned that show really good MiSTer tutorials, links to the Talkie Discord, links to this little LCD if you want to check that out, stuff like that. But yeah, thanks, and have a good night. See y'all.